now. Happy Monday afternoon. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. And if you are one particular individual who plays baseball for the Kansas City Royals, happy payday as well. Big day for Bobby Witt. The Super Bowl week finally is here. Kansas City is the center of the sports universe, and we're breaking it all down here today on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzynski. That's Dan Lucero. That is Spencer Dupuis. We are here with you for the next 4 hours, and we have so much to get to. The Super Bowl is now just 6 days away. We will continue getting you ready for Chiefs versus 49ers in Super Bowl 58. Break it all down as best as we can. Plus, Matt Verderame is going to join us coming up next hour to go around the NFL and around the Super Bowl and to break down the matchup between the Chiefs and the 49ers. We'll also get to a couple other specifics from the game, favorite memories from the Super Bowl run. We'll talk a little bit about the most underrated players, under-the-radar players in this year's Super Bowl, all that and a whole lot more regarding Super Bowl 58. We'll get to a lot of college hoops today as well. Sunflower Showdown tonight. KU versus K-State at Bramlage Coliseum. It is going to be loud as hell in there tonight. And both teams coming into this game on very different trajectories. KU had a monster win on Saturday, taking down the Houston Cougars. They didn't take them down. They crushed them. I mean, they were dominant the entire game.
They shot 69% from the field against the number one defense in the country.
Which,
wow, that's not bad.
No, that certainly won't happen again, probably all year, but really impressive for KU. KU owns the best group of 4 wins of any team in the country.
Yes, correct.
Tennessee, Kentucky, UConn, and now Houston. No one else has a top-end resume like that. Nobody.
We also like to thank our friends in the desert for, I have a pretty hard and fast rule. When KU is plus money on the money line, you bet KU at Allen Fieldhouse because they don't lose at Allen Fieldhouse. That's a good way to make some money. I didn't even have to wait till the game started.
It had only ever happened, I believe, twice before during the Bill Self era.
Two other times, yeah.
The last time it happened was against number 2 Baylor, and KU also won that game by 13. 13 is the lucky number, apparently, if KU is a dog at home.
All 3 times it has happened under Bill Self, because it was Ohio State when they were number 2 in the country back in 2011.
That's right.
They came in as a favorite, and KU won by double digits. I think they won that game by 11. So, yes, 3 times they've been home underdogs. 3 times KU has won by double digits. It's pretty impressive.
So that's where KU is coming into tonight's game. Spencer, do you remember what I told you about K-State and Oklahoma State on Friday when I said something to the effect of, I'm not even going to consider that K-State could lose this game. They just have to win it.
I remember that, and I honestly was with you on that, and I was like, it's a get-right game for them. I mean, texters agreed as well as on the YouTube stream, and everyone thought it was going to be smooth sailing for K-State against Oklahoma State, but everyone was sorely wrong.
Yeah, on the bright side, nobody saw it because the arena was empty. Nobody went. Apparently, there was no wrestling later that day, so no one decided to show up to Gallagher-Iba. That's a horrible loss. There's no way to sugarcoat it. I don't care that it was 1 possession. I wouldn't have cared if it was 30 possessions. That is a horrible loss for K-State.
Season's on the brink.
Yeah,
for sure, for K-State. So that's what makes tonight's game so fascinating. You've got one team, the home team, in a desperation spot. And you got the visiting team in the classic letdown spot with the short turnaround. There's a reason that, speaking of the Vegas numbers, there's a reason it's so low. That number is 4.5 when it doesn't feel like, given what we know about both of these teams and given their current form, that number probably should not be that low. But again, it's a fascinating spot for both teams tonight. Going to be a great atmosphere at the Octagon.
So we'll get to all of that coming up today. We've got your texts coming in, 785-272-9429. Comments on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. Make sure you subscribe while you're there. You can watch the live stream. Check out all of our old videos. We had recaps all over the place. Dan was at Allen Fieldhouse. He had a recap on the YouTube from KU versus Houston. If you missed any of the Washburn action this weekend, we've got a reaction up about that. And, of course, the back catalog of all of our shows as well. And we'd love for you to be a part of the show today. And right now is an unbelievable time to be alive if you are a fan of Kansas City and Kansas professional and college sports teams. Tonight, specifically, we've got an awesome game, one of the more fun rivalries in college basketball right now.
With the big Monday spotlight on Big ESPN.
Which is going to be awesome. I assume Fran will be on the call tonight, or maybe Billis. I don't know who'll be on the call tonight.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the game notes, but I'm sure the game notes will tell us if you want to give me a second to check that out.
Yeah, so obviously that is a big deal. KU, again, as good of a resume as anybody right now in terms of quality of wins, national title contender. We know all of that. Sunflower Showdown, always fun. Bramlage Coliseum, always, always, always awesome when KU comes to town, right? So that's today. You've got the Kansas City Chiefs who are playing in the Super Bowl for the 4th time in 5 seasons coming up in 6 days' time. A chance to win a 3rd Super Bowl in the last 6 seasons and to do it a 2nd time against the San Francisco 49ers while you've got the greatest quarterback of all time playing for your team. And then today, the young rising star of your baseball team, a baseball team that I think can be kindly described as lost in the wilderness over the last half decade. They thought they had a plan, and then they ended up failing at that plan. It's like going on a camping trip, thinking you were going to end up at the KOA, and you ended up inside of a bear's den instead.
Yeah.
Like, that's not where you wanted to be.
You're in a morass, and one of the ways you thought you were going to get out of it has not materialized, as all of the top 100 prospect lists are coming out across baseball. Like Keith Law's done his, and Kylie McDaniel for ESPN, Baseball Prospectus. They all have one thing in common. No Royals. No top 100 prospects in the Royals system. So, yes, that part of building back to being competitive, that has been kind of a broken process the last couple of seasons. And the result of that is very, very public. But they did develop one superstar, and now he's going to wear a Kansas City Royals uniform for a very long time.
Yep. So if you missed the news today, we'll break it for you right now. Bobby Witt Jr. has agreed to the 16th richest contract, guaranteed money in the history of Major League Baseball. $288.8 million guaranteed over 11 years for Bobby Witt Jr. That is, to stay in Kansas City. That's not, oh, by the way, the Yankees swooped in and they're trading for him and signing him. This isn't, oh, the Dodgers sent, a box of Cracker Jack to trade for him and they signed him. No, this is the Kansas City Royals, who have already this year been one of the top 5 free agent spenders in the offseason, but have now inked one of the richest guaranteed contracts in baseball history to keep a homegrown star at home.
I think if you combined the 4 largest contracts previously given out by the Royals in their club's history, the $82 million extension Salvador Perez got 3 years ago now, Alex Gordon's free agent deal after 2016, I want to say it was, when he got 4 years and 72, the 5 for 70 that Ian Kennedy got. And after that, is it still Gil Mesh's 5 for 55?
I believe it is.
Yeah, you combine those 4, and we're still short of what the Royals have laid out for Bobby Witt Jr. over the next 11 years. Not to mention a 3-year, $89 million team option after year 11 that's out there that could take the total value of the deal to 14 years and $377 million. Again, this is the Kansas City Royals doing this. This is a team that we have felt has ventured on being unserious over the last half decade. And never did they feel more unserious than at times last year with the clown car they were running out to every 5 days with their pitching rotation. They were a mess and had one of the worst seasons in franchise history. And now in one off season, with just days until pitchers and catchers report, people are excited about Kansas City Royals baseball again. And all it took was just a little spending in the offseason, bringing some actual major league caliber starting pitchers into the fold, and then making sure that the star and one of a guy who can be one of the best players in baseball for the life of this contract is going to stay at Kansas City Royal for a very long time. A generational player, potentially, the way that George Brett was for this organization. Bobby Witt Jr. can be that. Obviously, he's got to win. They got to win some games while he's around, but he can be that guy. He can be Salvador Perez. He can be George Brett. He can be this for this generation of the Royals, and he's going to wear this uniform for a long time. And man, people are charged up about Royals baseball, which is a pretty cool thing to see. And certainly did not think we were going to talk any baseball during Super Bowl week, but you got us, John Sherman. Kudos.
I want to bring a point in here. Honestly, when I was coming here, the least thing I was excited for was Royals baseball, if we're being completely honest here. As an outsider, I kind of viewed them as a lower team in the MLB, just not very consistent. They had that run there in the 2010s.
Well,
but
I mean, other than the standings, that's not really a fair thing to.
Yes,
describe
but I'm
them
saying
as.
I was least excited about the chance to cover them. But now it's everything's totally turned around. I think as you mentioned, generational talent. That's the term that you hear in the MLB these days, and I think they made the right move locking him up this early. Because obviously, as MLB players do, they have those years of arbitration that you just go down the line, like the Nats did with Juan Soto before ultimately trading him and not being able to get the deal done. As a MLB fan, I like seeing that you get your star, your guy you want to build your team around.
Mhm.
You get him back, you retain him early because he's already shown you that he can be one of the best in the league. And for me personally, this makes me want to tune into Royals baseball more than it did 3 weeks ago when I showed up here.
Yeah, he's a star. He's a star. He is the face of your franchise now. Just like Patrick Mahomes is the face of the Kansas City Chiefs and the entire NFL. Bobby Witt Jr. is the face of the franchise. You have given him the money. You have given him that sort of responsibility. And if you think he is going to be this dude, that guy, this was 100% worth it. And I give John Sherman credit after not, and I think justly not giving him credit for a long time, being willing to say, all right, I've got the money. We've got the money as a franchise. Let's make it happen. Let's put together a team that is going to be, again, more competitive this year.
Right. We're not printing playoff tickets yet or anything. They got some questions to answer, but they are certainly a more compelling roster and a more competitive roster than the one that ended last year with 106 losses. And you and I both said it loudly and repeatedly. Hey, John Sherman, you want Kansas City to build you a new stadium? You want people to get behind your team and get behind a new place for your team to play? Give people a team worth going to see.
Yep.
Give people a team worthy of $1 billion baseball palace. Do something about it. Put your money where your mouth is on that. And to his credit, to the credit of the Royals front office, that is what they have spent this offseason doing. They have put a team together that, again, we're not printing playoff tickets. They don't fly flags for offseason championships or having an interesting offseason. But this is a team that should be far more competitive, should hold our interest much deeper into the 162-game Major League Marathon. And who knows? They might be a team in the mix for a playoff spot in the American League.
It's not a place that at the start of the offseason I thought we would say the Royals were in, but I appreciate the fact that they're doing it, and I appreciate the fact that you locked up your superstar long-term. You had to get it done eventually. I'm glad the Royals did. I'm glad he's getting paid, and I'm glad he's going to be a part of this franchise. That's a big deal.
I did not think I would fix my lips to say the words Royals this entire week. I got to be honest.
No chance.
I did not think they were going to be a topic of discussion in Super Bowl week, but no, credit to the Royals for stealing some headlines, continuing to get people excited and to, put a little cherry on top of what has been a terrific, really last 48 hours in Kansas City sports. 6 World Cup matches, including a quarterfinal coming to our Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah.
The Queen of Kansas City, Taylor Swift, 4th album of the year. She's a record setter. By the way, I don't know if you saw this. No national TV market watched the Grammys more than Kansas City.
I believe it. I saw people.
Kansas City had the highest TV ratings
Well,
for the
as
Grammys.
Travis Kelce said, she's going to support me. I'm going to support her. So the fans are doing just that.
They're doing just that. I had my whole Twitter was blown up last night. Oh my God, Taylor won, bro. I know I don't intentionally follow a lot of Taylor Swift fans. I know that for certain. And Chiefs fans all over the place were rooting for her. And I've got no beef with Taylor Swift, but everybody in the area was like, oh, cool. Taylor Swift it's amazing. It really is. I mean, it's cool that so many fans have adopted her as their own.
Somebody said she should have gone to the mic accepting her award and just said something like Chiefs 28-17 and then walked away.
Or you got
Roger Goodell would have had a stroke.
Oh yeah.
Or Kelsey's slogan. You got the right to party.
Yeah, she had walked up and started rapping the Beastie Boys. Yeah, that would have been a scene. Yeah, but it is kind of an amazing thing. And I know we are not in Kansas City, but all of our local professional teams are from Kansas City. So to be in this area, to have this much success, this many reasons to be excited, it's pretty incredible. And it becomes hard, I would imagine, as a fan to not feel almost like this is birthright at this point. And it's at least if you're of a certain age. Like if you're 16 right now and you were, what would you have been, like 10 when Patrick Mahomes started? Like you're right now in the era of like 20 years from now when you and your buddies are remembering some guys, you're going to be like, oh, Kadarius Toney. Like you're going to remember these guys. This is when, we all have memories of sports when we were young, but when you're in that age is when everything is solidified in a lot of ways. Like it probably feels like, yes, we will be back at the Super Bowl next year. This is what we do. This is birthright. This is how it is supposed to be. So you always have to take a step back. And I do this with KU basketball all the time. I have to step back and say, like, these are the good old days. Do not take this for granted because it very easily can disappear in a flash. So the fact that you're back at the Super Bowl again, you've got the best quarterback in the world, if not the best player in the entire world. The most popular woman on earth is supporting your team. And not like just Travis Kelce. I think it was the Miami game. I think it was the wild card round game where she was in the, maybe, I don't remember which playoff game it was, I guess. But they flashed the camera up to her after Isaiah Pacheco scored, and you could just see her yelling, Pacheco! Like, she is clearly all in on it. You are the center of pop culture and sports and entertainment.
America's team.
Yeah.
She's her America's team. And Kansas City has America's team. And, I mean, like you said, we're not in Kansas City, but Topeka is very much a Kansas City sports town. The buses in town flash "Go Chiefs" and "Go Royals" messages. It very much feels of a piece with what is going on in Kansas City. And for all of these things to be happening at once, for all of this excitement to be occurring at once, you got to be on top of the world, because this is not the kind of thing, it's not the kind of run that typically happens in a sports town the size of Kansas City, in a sports town located where Kansas City is located, like Los Angeles, Boston, New York. Like, you're used to this. Barely a blip on the radar. They've got so many championships, so many rings, so many reasons to get excited about sports. Kansas City's got two major sports teams. And right now, obviously, you're in the middle of a run that could go down as one of the all-time great dynastic runs, not just in the NFL, but in all of sports. But now you've got today a reason to be a little bit more optimistic than you were before about the hometown nine that occupies your attention in the spring and summer. And that's all that Royals fans have been looking for since the dissolution of the championship teams after 2017. So, yes, a lot of excitement to go around. We've even got the Bard weighing in. It's a big Royals day when the Bard checks in. Our guy Christopher on the YouTube comments, Witt's a Royal for years, next 11, and maybe then through 37. A star stays right here. Their goals are more clear. Dump Lyles, and I'll be in heaven. 10 out of 10, no notes. It rhymed. Perfect limerick structure. A totally unnecessary cheap shot at Jordan Lyles. Perfection. No notes.
No, all the cheap shots are necessary. I think that's fair to say. They are absolutely necessary.
This is a good comment from Vance about Bobby Witt Jr.'s contract. Who kidnapped John Sherman and put a lookalike in the Royals front office?
Look, if that's what it took to get his stadium built, I'm awesome. Great.
Yes.
Cool. Enjoy your new stadium. Thank you for putting a competitive team out there.
Yeah. Like it's, if you want to be cynical about this, you can. Like, this is an opportunistic thing for the Royals to do as a team. Hey, let's invest in the roster, give our fans something to be excited about, so that when they go to the ballot box and they punch the Chad that says, yes, we want the new stadium. Yes, we'll do the sales tax. Yes, we'll build a new baseball stadium somewhere in the greater Kansas City area. We still don't know where yet, but we're hoping to know soon. You can be a little cynical about it, but you know what? Enjoy the parts of it that are there for you to enjoy, which is you go into this baseball season not maybe feeling like 90 losses is inevitable.
How mad is Frank White? How mad is he that now the Royals have started to put together a more competitive, compelling roster, as you put it, Dan? And it looks like, hey, you all told us you can have a stadium when you start putting together a better team that we care about. Okay, we did. We have Bobby Witt Jr. locked up long-term. We're a top 5 free agency spender in all of baseball this year. The Royals did that. How do you feel now? Public opinion is going to swing way back in the Royals' favor with moves like these.
It is incredibly bizarre. And I still haven't quite wrapped my head around it. There's always an obstinate politician standing in the way of things like this. And sometimes, like, look, I'm all for as little public money as possible being spent on, billionaires trying to get baseball stadiums
Of course.
or football stadiums built. So, like, I see where Frank White is coming from, and like I understand that there's maybe a gap to be bridged here, but it's wild that the politician standing in the way, just a typical character in a story like this, also just happens to be one of 3 people who has their number retired by the organization who is trying to build the stadium. A local guy.
Yeah.
A beloved icon of Kansas City sports is also the one saying, I don't know about this. And like, he's not 100% wrong either. It's just a wild twist in that tale. Like that, it's hard to even talk about because it's hard to like comprehend the weight of that.
Who's the one in Denver?
The obstinate politician? I've been away too long. I don't remember.
It is the alderman of, I don't know what the ward is in Chicago, but it's Wrigleyville's alderman. It's Tom Tunney in Chicago. Everybody, if you say like, oh, what are your thoughts on Tom Tunney on the north side of Chicago? Everyone will roll their eyes and groan.
Also, all the stadiums in Denver are at least 20 years old, 25 years old now. So yeah, there haven't been a lot of ballot issues. All the teams have stadiums they're happy with, at least until the Walton Penner Group builds a SoFi Stadium knockoff out by the airport. That'll piss people off.
We're just getting started on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. We've got plenty of Chiefs, plenty of Super Bowl to get to. Talk about some of our favorite Super Bowl run memories coming up on the other side of the break. Look ahead to more from Super Bowl 58 later on this hour, right here on 580 Sports Talk. As great as it is to be a member of the Kansas City sports scene right now, you know who it's not a great day for? Former members of the Kansas City sports scene. You had LaShawn McCoy, who had to apologize for some really bad takes about, who was it? He had to apologize for something. He took some take too far. I saw it today. And Eric Bieniemy, former offensive coordinator for 2 Super Bowl winners. 1 year in Washington, and he is out the door. The Commanders hired Cliff Kingsbury as their new offensive coordinator this weekend while they still had Eric Bieniemy under contract. And within the last half hour or so, the Commanders announced Eric Bieniemy is no longer under contract.
But Dan Quinn did have some great words to say about it.
I'm sure he did. When I can think of one other from recent memory, how quickly someone's coaching star dissolved. Like Eric Bieniemy for 3 years running, every offseason had unbelievable public relations working for him and an unbelievable run of how is he not a head coach? He deserves it, etc. He got a pity Rooney Rule interview this year from the team that already employed him, and that was it.
Yeah, pretty amazing that that was the only interview with 8 vacancies across the league. And the only interview he ended up getting was from the Commanders. No interviews anywhere else. That first time I've ever thought there might have been some legitimacy to the idea, maybe he just doesn't interview very well, which was the song and dance that we heard there for years when he would go through the interview cycle. He'd be a hot name on the carousel, and then he'd inevitably not get a job and return to Kansas City.
And wasn't Washington the only team to interview him last year? Maybe one other team interviewed him.
I don't remember exactly.
Because that was a weird ending. It was I'm going to bet on myself ending, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah.
It was time for him to, if the perception was that he wasn't getting a head coaching job because people didn't think he had as much to do with the offensive success of the Chiefs as Andy Reid, which is true. I mean, depending on how far you take that statement, it's either fair or unfair. But the perception was that he needed to go somewhere where he was out of Reid's shadow and be the unquestioned play caller somewhere. And I think when he left, I don't think any Chiefs fans were upset about it. It was one of those things where he's doing what he has to do because he wants to be a head coach. And this is clearly the message that has been sent these years of interviews without getting hired for the number one jobs, that this was something that he had to go and do. And he went and did it with a coach who was a dead man walking and Sam Howell at quarterback. And that was only ever going to go one way.
I have a question for you guys, because obviously I was not in the know. It was Reid who had been calling the plays for KC, right?
Always, yes.
Yes. So Reid has multiple times kind of muddied the water publicly about that. He's the one who's calling the plays, designing the plays, leading the game plan meetings, all of that.
Still to this day, though?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because in the presser, Nagy talked about calling plays, and then
he may send them in
calling plays.
Yeah, he might be the one who actually literally calls into the quarterback's helmet that does it. It's Andy Reid.
But he's the one making the game plan and everything.
Yeah.
The main.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
That is why
it's a democracy, but Reid is the president. Might be the way you put it.
The week 1 NBC Thursday night football game where the Chiefs opened the season, I believe Chris Collinsworth referred to Matt Nagy as a hall monitor.
That's a little harsh.
That's essentially what he's a babysitter. He is there to make sure Patrick Mahomes is happy and to say, oh, let me run that by coach. That's his job. And Reid, and it's
a conduit, really.
He had kind of muddied the waters right before Nagy left. Because if you remember in 2017, before Nagy took the Bears job, there had been that chatter at the end of the season because Alex Smith had been awesome for about 12 weeks. Then things back third of the year kind of started to sputter a little bit offensively.
I remember this.
And there was all sorts of talk about how, who's actually calling the plays? And it was, Andy Reid has mostly been doing it, but Matt Nagy has the autonomy to do some things. And actually Matt Nagy has been doing all the play calling, and it's just Reid behind the scenes stuff. Andy Reid is the brains behind the offense. This is much more like Kyle Shanahan calling his own plays than it is
whoever's calling the
Mike Tomlin calling his own plays. That Reid is the brains behind it. And that is why that's the other argument why that came up, why you wouldn't hire Eric Bieniemy. Well, we saw how Matt Nagy worked out. Everybody knows it's just Andy Reid's offense.
People also saw how Doug Peterson worked out. Won a Super Bowl.
Yes.
So, it was always unfair that was, I felt it was unfair that was how Bieniemy was judged. I understood why Bieniemy felt he had to leave the Chiefs organization to have the opportunity to maybe be a head coach somewhere else. It was just not a very good situation. Even with new ownership, the Commanders are still the Commanders. I mean, no disrespect, Spencer. That's a franchise that has a long way to go to fix, like decades of institutional rot. Removing the owner was a great first step, but then they got a long way to go. The talent isn't there. The infrastructure, the coaching staff, it was always kind of felt like a lame duck year for Ron Rivera. And so that was a tough spot for Bieniemy to be in. And now I don't know where it goes from here, because a lot of teams already have their offensive coordinators, and I don't know where Bieniemy gets his next shot. If he's got to sit out a year, if he's got to go somewhere to be like an offensive analyst for a year before he gets another chance, I don't necessarily know what it looks like, what his next step looks like. But yeah, we feel now further than ever from Eric Bieniemy being a head coach, where we maybe felt closer than ever when he left the Chiefs after last year.
This will not happen, but let me throw a suggestion out there. Head coach for Boston College.
I hear they're going to hire Bill O'Brien.
Is that who it is? I saw whispers about that.
I am hearing Bill O'Brien.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. He's a Boston guy.
Yeah.
And you could do worse. You could probably do better, but you could certainly do worse than that. I was wondering, and this might be more pertinent to you, Dan, and to you on the other side of the radio. I don't know how much, Spencer, you would have a background in this, but this is now 4 Super Bowls in the last 5 years for the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you have a favorite memory from any of the previous Super Bowl runs, like into the postseason, lead up the week before the Super Bowl, the game itself, something that stands out as like a crowning memory?
I think about, and Randy Gisserli of The Ringer, who may be best known on the internet for his baseball writings and his Royals fandom, but has resurfaced time and again on The Ringer to write about Mahomes and the Chiefs. He did a whole piece today about the 15 best moments in Mahomes' career to this point, and it was fun kind of going down memory lane. I just think about that 2019 playoff run, the disappointment of the way that 2018 ended in overtime with the Chiefs never getting to touch the ball and feeling like, man, was that the shot? Was that the opportunity that this team had to break this long Super Bowl drought, and then to fall behind 24-0 in the divisional round and be leading that game by halftime, before halftime.
Yeah.
There was time left on the clock when they took the lead at the end of the first half. Same deal happening in the conference championship game. That was probably those two games. Just those are the games that made me think that maybe Patrick Mahomes could walk on water. Like maybe he could turn water to wine. Like maybe he was that kind of a miracle worker. So those are probably the ones that stand out the most to me, is that first one. Because the first one, I mean, you can win 2, 3, 7 like Tom Brady did, but the first one's always going to be the first one. And those are the ones that stand out the most to me.
I think in terms of actual, well, this wasn't even really game action. The thing I remember the most, honestly, from the first one, is Jimmy Garoppolo overthrowing Emmanuel Sanders in what could have maybe shifted the final result of that game. I remember how pumped Jake was when the game ended and when he took a day off of work to go to the parade.
Yeah.
His wife was pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
And they still made it they had to get to Kansas City to see the parade and to celebrate and go to the rally and all that. And we were back here. We aired it live. We carried the rally live.
Yes.
And I waited with the equipment to my right, just like it is off to the side for Spencer right now. I guess it would have been off to my left, having my finger hovering over the dump button for like 10 minutes, waiting for Travis Kelce to come up and speak.
Terrifying.
No, like I knew I was going to have to use it. Like, there's no way this is going to make it out over the airwaves on my watch.
I think you ended up using it twice, and then we both had simultaneous heart attacks when Tyreek Hill referred to, I believe he called him Andy Mother Freaking Reed. And I remember.
I thought I was going to throw up.
I remember shooting a look at you like, oh my God, we almost, like, the parachute opened just in time. Yes, that was a particularly memorable one for sure.
Yeah.
And like Kelsey's post-game speech at the end of, well, really all 4 conference championship games.
Yeah.
But nothing's going to beat Burrowhead my ass after last year's game. That's the all-timer. He's never beating that.
No, that was incredible. Also, speaking of the parade, the first time shouting out the World War I veterans.
It's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, he is galactically drunk. And I'm up there on the stage, and he does. The Veterans Memorial's back there, and he's gestured at it. He says, shout out to all the World War I veterans.
Ain't many of those left, Travis.
I'm not sure there were any left, even in 2019, 2020. That was a long time ago, Travis.
Long time ago. That is so funny. Clayton on YouTube says, I went to all the AFC Championship games, but nothing compared to the one when they punched through to get into the Super Bowl for the first one. Sitting section 106, row 4. Great seats for that. No, like if you got to live through that as a fan, I mean, it's incredible. And that's why I keep saying, man, do not take this for granted. Do not.
Mahomes' run in that game. Like it was in Randy Gisarelli's article today at The Ringer. If you're a Chiefs fan, you haven't read that yet, what are you doing? Get over to theringer.com and read that today. That run that might be my favorite Mahomes play. Certainly my favorite Mahomes play that isn't a pass.
I still think my favorite Mahomes play might be the touchdown to Chris Conley, week 3, 2018. I still think that might be my favorite one. Also, the first
completion of his career, or the third down completion to the tight end with stone hands.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what was his name?
Demetrius Harris. Yeah. Who sucked. He was big bad.
A seed through 2 defenders in a place where even Demetrius Harris couldn't drop it. Yeah, that was like the preseason stuff had been fun, but when he did that in a real game against an NFL team, it was like, oh.
Uh-oh. I remember vividly watching that game. And I was at someone else's house at the time. I was actually at the house of a girl I was seeing at the time. And we were watching with her family, and everyone just sort of gasped when he completed it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You can just tell. There are certain guys, we talk about this with basketball a lot. Some guys just move different, and it's different when they're on the floor. Same thing with quarterbacks. Sometimes they do things you go, oh my God, that's not normal. The trick shot.
The Conley pass is a great example of that too. The pass to Chris Conley, because that was the third game of that 2018 season, and he threw for 10 touchdowns the first 2 weeks. But then that was the one where it was like, okay, he's scrambling around and beating dudes outside the pocket like prime Russell Wilson, but the arm is different. Yep. Like the arm and the vision are different. Like that was when I was pretty convinced that there wasn't anybody else like him.
Patrick Mahomes, in the first 3 starts of his career against the Chargers, Steelers, and 49ers in 2018, he went for, and the website will tally this all up for me, 3 games, completed exactly 2/3 of his passes, 13 touchdowns, no interceptions, 137.4 rating. That was the first 3 starts of his entire career, and he's been just as good ever since. It defies all logic. We do owe you a timeout when we come back on the other side of this break, though. A little more preview action for Super Bowl 58. Don't forget, we will also talk a little more Bobby Witt later on in the show. Plus, we'll preview the Sunflower Showdown. All that and so much more still to come on 580 Sports Talk. Coming up on Thursday's edition of 580 Talk from 2 until 6, we will be live from the Prairie Band Sportsbook up at Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta. Very excited to be back with our friends at the Prairie Band Sportsbook, getting you ready for Super Bowl 58. We'll be inside the book all day, so come hang out with us. Go place your bets for the Super Bowl. We'd love for you to just come out and see us and hang out with us. We'll be right there in the book, hanging out for the entire duration of the show. It is so easy and simple to place bets up there.
Call out of work. You're not doing anything. It's
No.
Thursday before the Super Bowl. You can't. You probably, your focus is pretty limited anyway. Come on out to the Prairie Band Sportsbook. Come hang, say hi, order a cocktail. We can't have one, but order a drink. Get comfortable. Bet the Royals over on wins. Bet some props on the Super Bowl. Have yourself a good time.
Yeah, that's Super Bowl props at the Sportsbook. So come join us. Again, it's just 20 minutes north of the capital city. Take 75 highway up to 150 road. You take the exit on the right. You turn left. You absolutely cannot miss it. We'll be there at the Sportsbook all afternoon long for 580 Sports Talk coming up on Thursday. So excited to be there with our friends at Prairie Band. This is the start of this week can be difficult when it comes to analyzing the Super Bowl because we've already had usually you have a week, right? You have a week. Maybe you have one extra day if you play Monday Night Football. Maybe you have a little bit less if you play the Thursday game. But you have a week to prepare and analyze and break down every game. This week, and even when you have the off week, you can talk about the rest of the NFL. Everyone else is playing, right?
Right.
When you've got the Super Bowl, though, there's only one game left on the schedule, and you've got 2 whole weeks to break it down, to analyze it, to go over all the ins and outs and drama and storylines and headlines and all that. So with 1 week in the book, we've still got 6 more days to go until we get to the Super Bowl. What is one take, one opinion, one feeling that you've got about this game, this matchup, 49ers versus Chiefs, that you have had since we found out the matchup, you still have today, that is not going to change between now and kickoff? One thing that you are locked in on, an opinion you are not going to budge on.
I got a couple of them, but I'll stay with one that is a little bit more specific and schematic. The thing that I am most convinced about is that the Chiefs are not going to be overrun by the 49ers offensively. I know that they've got great skill talent. And the thing about having 2 weeks, right, is you can go back and you can eat the tape and you can watch all the impressive stuff that Christian McCaffrey has done and that Deebo Samuel has done, all the big catches George Kittle makes and all of that, and think, oh, man, you get a little nervous. You watch those guys and you build them up a little bit over the course of 2 weeks. 2 reasons I think that the Chiefs are going to be just fine defensively against that. Number one, when they faced the Shanahan offenses, particularly in the big games with a healthy defense, they have stymied the Shanahan offense. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of similarities between what the 49ers do and what the Dolphins do. And Steve Spagnuolo had Mike McDaniel in a full Nelson for 60 minutes twice. Held him to a combined 21 points. That was the highest scoring offense in the NFL. I think he's going to be able to come up with a solution against these 49ers. And the other reason I'm convinced of it is because nobody really has put it on the Chiefs defense all year. And I don't think, even with all that great skill talent, they still got weaknesses on the offensive line. And Brock Purdy is still Brock Purdy. Like, he's good. I think he's fine. I don't think he's going to be the guy that all of a sudden, oh my gosh, like, the Chiefs just can't get a stop. The Chiefs are chasing ghosts. The Chiefs give up 30 points. No, I am convinced, and you cannot waver. I will not waver from the idea that the Chiefs defense is going to do pretty much what they've done for the bulk of the season.
Spencer, what about you? What's something that you are just locked in on when it comes to breaking this game down?
Locked in on the fact that the Chiefs have been the team that people have been out to get, and that people are doubting Mahomes. But what has he done so far? And he's going to continue to do that with being an underdog so far. And I think they'll continue to be an underdog until the books close Sunday at 5:29.
I think for me, this isn't I've got 2 here. One is not really about the game. If you believe that there is some sort of grand conspiracy for the Chiefs to win because Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce, I genuinely believe you need to see a doctor, like a neurosurgeon, a neurologist, someone like that's not a normal way for your brain to be wired.
Like hold down the button on your phone that takes you to Facebook. Like hold it until it starts to wiggle if you've got the iPhone, and then delete the app. And then perhaps throw your phone into the nearest body of water, whether that's a pond, a lake, maybe it's a river, or maybe a bathtub will do fine. And just like be a normal person away from the phone for like 48 hours, and you will be amazed. Like do a cleanse on your brain if you were the kind of person that thinks that.
Well, the funny thing is too, like it would be one thing if Taylor Swift was dating Trevor Lawrence, and all of a sudden the Jaguars had a bunch of like iffy refereeing decisions that led them to the Super Bowl against the 49ers, and they came out on top. Like it would still be nonsense, but at least you could theoretically be like, okay.
What if Taylor Swift says, man, I gotta check the extent of my powers. I'm gonna go out with Zach Wilson.
Yeah, okay. Like if that happens, all right, fine. I don't agree with you, but at least I can see where it comes from. The Chiefs have won 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls already, or 2 of the last 4 Super Bowls already. They've been to 3 of the last 4. Like them winning and being good is not like a surprise. That's not something the NFL needed to fix for them. That just is what it is.
Or the idea that, well, the NFL rigged the game so that people will watch the Super Bowl because Taylor Swift will be in attendance. Yeah, because if not for her, nobody would watch the Super Bowl.
Last year, and I love it's for ratings thing. I love that. In the year 2023, of the 100 most watched programs on all of television in the United States, 93 of them were NFL games.
The only thing that Americans watched more than they have watched a Super Bowl was the moon landing in 1969. Outside of that, the next 8 highest rated television broadcasts in millions of viewers in history are Super Bowls. You know what, number 2 of all time, most watched anything that isn't the moon landing? Last year's Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes and a single Travis Kelce.
Unbelievable.
Please, I go get a lobotomy, something. Help yourself.
By the way, we have a comment here from Paul on YouTube who says, my belief for Super Bowl 58 is that of the 4 Super Bowls Kansas City has been to, this is the most winnable of them.
I think that's a good take, Paul.
Yeah.
I think that's a good take. I think this 49er team may be the least potent of the 4. And that's like, obviously they're good. Not saying they're not good, but I think the Super Bowl 54 49ers had a better defense. I think they were a better all-around team, even if they didn't have quite as many explosive playmakers on offense. They didn't have McCaffrey. They didn't have Ayuk, but pretty similar other than that. They had Kittle. They had Debo. That Buccaneers team was great. Obviously had terrific defense and Tom Brady doing Tom Brady things. The Eagles were supposed to be the best team ever last year. Most sacks ever. Best team ever. I could see that. I could see this one feeling like, even though the Chiefs aren't going to be favored, they weren't favored last year. I could see feeling like this 49er team may be the least imposing of the 4 opponents.
Is it kind of messed up to say I think the least imposing of the 4 was the Buccaneers? Like, I know that's the one team that won, but like they were very mediocre for like 13 weeks of the regular season.
Yeah, they hit the gas late. There's no question.
If not for, well, I don't want to get into that year's NFC Championship game. We do have to get to a timeout. We'll talk some Bobby Witt to lead off next hour on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk just getting underway here on 580 WWW and FM 104.9. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis here with you for the next 3 hours. Lots to get to Super Bowl-wise. Bobby Witt Jr., college basketball. Matt Verderame is going to join us this hour. We'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly coming up in about 20 minutes. All that here this hour on 580 Sports Talk. We'd love for you to be a part of the show as well. Text in at 785-272-9429. And additionally, you can find us on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk. Almost did it again. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. Just go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Make sure you subscribe, and then you can check out today's live video stream, as well as all of our other video content from over the weekend, and there was plenty of it. So that is over on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is where you can find our channel on YouTube. Don't forget that coming up on Thursday, we will have 580 Sports Talk live from Prairie Band Sportsbook at the Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta, just off of 150th Road, about 20 minutes north of the capital city, up 75 Highway. We're excited to see you guys out there, so come hang out with us. The book is awesome. If you haven't been up there already, you didn't come out during our first trip up there a couple of weeks ago, or you haven't made your own trip up there, great time to come out, place your bets for the Super Bowl, props, totals, spread, money line, whatever it might end up being. Come hang out with us. Awesome place to just hang out, watch the game, watch some sports TV. When games aren't on, they got ESPN and FS1. They got everything up there. It's an awesome place to go, watch games, hang out with some friends, and you can come and hang out with us. Coming up on Thursday, full show. We'll be live from Prairie Band Sportsbook from 2 until 6. Looking forward to being up there. Did your bets win that weekend when we were there last?
Only one I placed was Chiefs money line in the Bills game. So yes, they did. So yes, I am bringing a winning slip back to the Prairie Band Sportsbook, and they're going to pay me.
It was, because if I remember correctly, that was your first time at the casino. It was very easy to set up the player card, right?
Yeah, super easy.
Perfect. That's all you need to know. So if you haven't gone up there, checked it out, maybe you haven't been to the casino period, awesome time to come out, hang out with us for a little bit, and place a couple bets on Super Bowl 58. And as Dan mentioned earlier, maybe your Royals season over for wins as well. Big Royals news from earlier today. We'll get to more on the Chiefs in a little bit when Matt Verderame joins the show. But the Royals today agreed to a contract extension, a record contract extension with Bobby Witt Jr., a guaranteed 11-year, $288.8 million contract extension. That is the 16th biggest guaranteed deal in the history of Major League Baseball. That'd be a fun Sporkle quiz. Who are the 15 above him? I believe he passed Xander Bogaerts' deal with this one today.
I think you're right.
For 16th biggest ever.
Even a smaller club of players who have received 9-figure deals with 2 or fewer years in the major leagues. Only 6 players before Bobby Witt Jr. have gotten contracts like that. The company he joins there, Fernando Tatis Jr., Julio Rodriguez, Mike Trout, Corbin Carroll, Ronald Acuna Jr., and accused sex pest Wander Franco. So, swings and roundabouts.
Well, we'll just ignore that last one.
Yeah.
No, this is obviously a big deal. Now, there are opt-outs beginning in year after year, 7, 8, 9, and 10 of the contract. There's also a club option after the 11th year that would add on 3 years and $89 million more. So the maximum possible value of this deal, 14 years, $377 million. That is if Witt plays out the entire thing with the 3-year club option at the end. This is awesome. I mean, that's the one thing it comes down to. This is as good as it gets for the Kansas City Royals. You have a homegrown star. He's paid handsomely. You're keeping him around long term. You think he's going to be a multi-time All-Star. You think he's going to be the face of the franchise. And now he is. When you give someone this money, they are the face of your franchise. And I think the Royals bet on the right horse here. That is my assumption. I think he is going to be a great player, not just a good player. I think he is going to be a great player for this franchise. Now, you still have to, over the duration of this contract, put a competitive team around him. Because as we know all too well in baseball, you don't win with one guy. But this is a great start for the Royals and building towards something in the future. And I'm glad they locked him down.
Well, the start really was the activity from this past offseason. Signing Seth Lugo, signing Michael Wacha, firming up the starting pitching rotation, substantially raising the floor of your starting pitching rotation and giving a signal to a young player like Bobby Witt Jr. that, yes, we are committed to improving the major league roster, and we are committed to competing in the American League Central, and that starts right now. And our long-term vision for competing in the American League Central and bringing a winner to Kansas City involves you at the center, you being the centerpiece, you being the Salvador Perez, you being the George Brett for the next decade of Royals baseball. That's not an easy thing to sell on a young player, right? Especially because, you know, Bobby Witt Jr. could have easily said, I just want to play out my arbitration years. He's got one more year pre-arb this year where he's basically, his salary is set in stone. It's written in the CBA. Then there are the 3 arbitration years where he would have been probably pretty handsomely compensated as an arbitration eligible player. And then he could hit free agency right when he hit his prime after the 2027 season. He could have hit free agency and he could have cashed out. He could have made a whole lot of money in free agency. He decided, you know what? No, I am willing right now at this stage of my career to stake my future and a substantial chunk of my prime years, maybe all of his prime years. His first opt-out comes 7 years after this. So he'll be 31, entering his age 31 season. So he is saying, I am willing to put my best years, my 20s, in the hands of the Kansas City Royals. I am willing to play my best years with this team in a ballpark to be named and constructed later, perhaps, and be the face of this franchise and believe that it can be a winning team. And that is not a statement I was totally convinced that Bobby Witt Jr. would be able to make. It was not a statement I was thoroughly convinced that the Royals would be able to make. And the fact that it has come together like this is extremely exciting and extremely promising, because what you have is Bobby Witt Jr. trusting the Royals and the Royals trusting Bobby Witt Jr. right back, because as we just laid out, there are only 6 other instances of this happening for a player this young with this little service time. And some of them have worked out really nicely, like the Mike Trout deal. But you know what Mike Trout never did in Anaheim? Win anything. Some of them, we don't know yet what the return is going to be. Ronald Acuna Jr., that looks great early. He won an MVP last year. Fernando Tatis, he got popped for steroids. Wander Franco, he got popped for something a lot worse. We might never see him play again. We don't know what it's going to look like.
I don't think there's any might at this point.
I think will not see him play again.
Like, it's too early to judge what it's going to look like for Julio Rodriguez and Corbin Carroll. But there's a lot of trust extended from the Royals to Witt that he is going to be a guy that we can put banners up across Kansas City. We can put him on billboards. He's going to be Mr. Royal for the next decade plus. I think that's a big deal.
I think this makes sense for both sides in this. I think obviously you get it done early, as Dan mentioned, pre-arbitration. You don't see that happen a lot. Obviously, you just mentioned, what was it, 6 total guys?
6 other guys to have this little service time and get 9. I mean, there have been players with no service time. It happened last week. I think Detroit gave Colt Keith a 6-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't even made the majors yet, but they gave him a 6-year contract. But to get this much money and this long a commitment for only having 2 major league seasons under your belt, that's exceedingly rare.
Obviously, that helps them, because if they let him play out those pre-arbitration years and get to arbitration and then have to negotiate, I mean, that contract is probably instead of 288.8, it's like 488.8 if he plays to be as good as he could be. And obviously it's good for them. But then there's also, things aren't working out 7 years down the line, there is that opt-out available. So everything, I think, works out. And then if the club option, if they get to the point in year 11 where the club option is, then I think that's huge, because you just tack that on automatically. And then basically I think he could finish his career as a Royal.
Yeah, if we get to 2030 and it has not coalesced around Bobby Witt Jr., he has an opportunity to, at that point, opt out of his contract, go seek out a ring, go seek out another payday, and play the second half of his career somewhere else. 7 years, essentially, with that opt-out, what the Royals have done is they have secured Witt's services for 3 years more than they would have had they just proceeded through the arbitration process and the arbitration years, and then been bidding on him with the other 30 clubs, the other 29 clubs at the end of the 2027 season. So that's a good thing for all parties. It's good that it's 7 years down the road, because if you put an opt-out in a young player's contract after like 3 years, they might threaten to take it and force you to trade them to a team for nothing and then kick in $50 million on top of that to get the trade done. Ask me how I know. Actually, you know what? Don't ask me how I know. This is a happy day. Let's all be happy.
Yeah.
Who's his agent?
Bobby Witt Jr.?
Yeah.
Bobby Witt Sr.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot more comfortable, because then it's not the
he's not a Boris guy.
Yeah. Boris guy, he would 100% opt out no matter what.
No, his dad is his agent, I believe, or is at least his.
Yes.
Maybe he has an official agent, but his dad is his personal advisor. Works for Octagon, in fact, which is a major sports agency.
Yeah. And it's worth noting that Jeff Passan, in reporting the piece and in writing the story for ESPN, does write that the opt-outs afford Witt the opportunity to reach free agency or renegotiate the deal, but he intends to remain with the Royals long past the first 7 years. So you don't come to a point where you agree to a contract like this where you sign on the dotted line with the thought that, oh man, thank God for that 7-year opt-out, because I know for sure I'm taking that sucker and I'm going to go get paid. I'm only in this for the 7 years. No, the idea is this is a long-term relationship between player and franchise and player and city that results in winning. And look, I don't know that there are a lot of baseball cities that are as good as Kansas City. I think Kansas City is one of the best baseball cities in America. I truly believe that. It's a great baseball market. It's a great baseball fan base. And they're dying for a winner, dying to embrace a guy like Bobby Witt Jr., who maybe gets a chance to do now what only a select few guys historically in Royals history have done. I mean, think of some other great young players that the Royals have had historically that finished their career elsewhere, playing out the end of their primes, or in some cases, all of their primes in other uniforms. Think of the Carlos Beltrans and the Jermaine Dyes and the Johnny Damons. Think of the Lorenzo Canes, maybe even like a guy like a Mike Moustakas who could have finished a Royal and didn't get a chance to do that. For Bobby Witt Jr. to say, my vision is I wear this uniform for a decade plus and we bring championship level baseball to Kansas City. That's a lot of trust that Bobby Witt Jr. is extending John Sherman, this ownership group. I mean, it goes both ways. Not just the Royals trusting Bobby Witt Jr. to continue to be great, to not get complacent, to stay out of trouble, and be a winning baseball player, a 4 to 5 win player in terms of wins above replacement, maybe even more than that for the next decade.
Playing at a premium position.
Yes. It's also Bobby Witt Jr. trusting the Royals that they're not going to stop at Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha. That when the time comes to maybe do a deal like this for Vinny Pasquantino, they get it done. Maybe a time comes you get a couple extra years for Cole Reagans in your rotation. You get that done. That you draft more intelligently, that you develop more intelligently, that this is the last time we ever talk about a top 100 prospect list that doesn't include a single Kansas City Royal. It's belief in the future, the trajectory of the organization. That has been extremely hard to come by. Trust us, we know, because we've heard from you, the Royals fan, who is not exactly 100% trusting of where things were going under J.J. Piccolo and where things were going under John Sherman's ownership. This is such a positive sign that Bobby Witt Jr., who's the star, he's the lodestar player for this organization, to say, I believe in the Kansas City Royals.
By the way, just to be as specific as we can be, so the year of the first opt-out after the 2030 season, Witt will be 30 years old. He has a June birthday, so he will turn 31 the next year. Right. So, again, to the point that this is a good deal for both sides that Spencer made, obviously you want him to be in Kansas City for the rest of his career. That's the ultimate goal here, right? But you can certainly take the angle that the Royals are keeping him locked up long-term, because through at least 2030, that is 7 years. I mean, that is absolutely long-term. But if you're Witt and maybe, you feel like it's time to move on, 30 years old, if you're still an all-star caliber player, especially at shortstop, you're going to get a boatload of money at that time. You might be able to strike it rich with another gigantic contract at that point. So it does, I think, work out for both sides, and it puts everybody in a healthy spot where we want it to work out here, but if it doesn't, we can both get out of this without it being too much of an albatross down the line. It's a great deal. This is what you needed. Now, how good can Bobby Witt Jr. be is, I think, the next question, because we've seen what he can be at 22 and 23 years old. It was 7th place in MVP voting. It was worth 4.4 wins above replacement.
And that's according to Baseball Reference. Fangraphs even more bullish. They had him for 5.7 wins above replacement. Their formula last year.
I assume they gave him more credit defensively, if I had to guess.
Yes. Lots more credit defensively.
Okay, so this is really not how the stats work, but let's just say roughly a 5-win player. Can we agree on that?
That's where the projections for 2024 have him at. I'm looking at his Fangraphs page. They've got the Zips projections, the Steamer projections, the Bat projections. They all have him in that 4 to 5 win, like 4.3 to 5.5 wins above replacement. That's elite, by the way. Like, you know, you've got maybe a guy or two each year that gets up to 8 to 9 wins above replacement.
Mm-hmm.
A 5-win shortstop is one of the 10 most valuable players in baseball on like a year in, year out basis.
Last year, according to Fangraphs, which had him at a 5.7 for his wins above replacement, that was the 12th best mark in all of Major League Baseball. 12th best. And for the baseball reference number, it was still top 25. And so you're saying a top 20-ish player in all of baseball who is 2 years into his career.
Yeah, and only 23. It's not like he's 2 years into his career and he's already in his mid-20s.
Yeah.
Everything pointed up and to the right on the graph for Bobby Witt Jr. last year. Walk rate went in the right direction. Strikeout rate went in the right direction. Power numbers went in the right direction. Hit 30 home runs after hitting 20 as a rookie. Stolen bases went in the right direction. Swiped 49 last year after he swiped 30 as a rookie. Batting average went up. On base went up. Slugging percentage went up. All of the fancy stats, the sabermetric stuff that I won't bore you to tears with, all of that trended in the right direction last year as well. This is a player with a ceiling that is above what we have already seen and a chance to get to that ceiling where year in, year out, he's one of the 5-10 best players in all of baseball. And that guy is wearing a Kansas City Royals uniform while he does this.
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. We've got a comment here from our pal Jay Hawker on YouTube. Says Royals need a closer now.
That's kind of the one thing. Like, if those rumors about Devin Williams were true and they've got a chance, like, we know the Brewers are selling. Mm-hmm. They are stripping that roster for parts. They traded Corbin Burns to the Baltimore Orioles last week. In case you missed that in the Super Bowl week revelry of last year, the Brewers traded the guy who won the Cy Young 2 years ago for like 2 prospects.
Yep.
Because this last year of his contract, it is what it is. They got a pick out of it too. But like they're starting to strip mine that roster. I would call again if I were JJ Piccolo, say, what do I got to do to get Devin Williams? What do I have to do to get the airbender in the 9th inning? And like, closers don't really move the needle in terms of like we've seen Royals teams that were lousy but had great closers.
Yeah.
Like, Joakim Soria was great on some lousy teams. Mike McDougal made the All-Star game on some lousy teams. But if you added a presence like Devin Williams to the 9th inning for this team, it would change again. It would further bolster the clubhouse because you go into a season now with the expectation to win and feeling like, hey, we got 5 legitimate big league starting pitchers that we can go 1 through 5 and we're going to have a chance to win 3 out of every 5 games behind these guys. We take a lead into the late innings. We hand it over to the airbender. Forget about it. Game's over. We've got one of the 10 best players in baseball anchoring our batting lineup, anchoring the middle of the diamond. We've got our leader, our emotional leader in Salvador Perez, still hitting 20, 30 bombs a year. Like, it would uplift the clubhouse even further and give them, I think, if not like the greatest raw numbers boost, it would give them a huge emotional boost if they were able to go out and get a premium closer on the trade market. I don't normally advocate for trading for a premium closer because you can overpay for those guys, but the Royals, I think it makes a certain amount of sense to do it.
And again, given the division this year, why not? Like, if you feel like you can add another piece or two and you can go win the division, why not?
Push your cards in. Like, the Cleveland hasn't done squat. They're still trying to get rid of guys. They'd love to trade Shane Bieber and Emmanuel Clase. Kick the tires on Clase. See if he's an all-star. See if the Guardians will swap him in division. They probably won't, but it's worth a phone call.
We'll get to a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we'll talk to Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated about the Super Bowl. That's all coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. recap the weekend. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, what was your good from the weekend?
Lots of good from the weekend. I'm going to say that the good was being at Allen Fieldhouse for Kansas-Houston. There's just nothing like that building for a big regular season game. Saturday afternoon, joint was jumping. They had these new LED lights they were flashing before the game.
Yeah. Was this the first time you got to see the lights?
I had not seen those.
Oh,
They didn't bring that out for Oklahoma. They did not bring that out for the OU game. They brought it out for Houston, though. It was cool. It just made it feel more like a rock concert, like a big game in there. Super crowd, great performance by Kansas to shoot 69% and score 78 points against a Kelvin Sampson Houston team is off the charts. They were fabulous, and just one of those days where the perk of this job, one of the many, is on occasion getting to be in the place where the big game is, and there's nothing better than that.
Spencer, what was your good?
My good goes back to Friday that led me into last night. We've got the work computer almost figured out for recording at home.
Good.
Not 100% where I would like it to be. Adobe Audition given some problems, but I am learning another program, Cool Edit. Shout out Cool Edit.
How moved in are you at this point? Like, do you feel like it's home yet?
I do not, because every time I walk in the door, I see two chairs, a desk and a chair, and then a ottoman that is my breakfast bar / dinner table / I don't have any furniture. That's why I don't feel moved in. But
So is that just a matter of you need a couple of checks to clear, then you're going to get a couch, or are you just like, I don't say lazy as an insult, but just like you'll get to it when you get to it?
I think it's more of trying to find the right couch that fits into my small apartment. Because I was offered a couch by Dan and his sister-in-law?
No, just in-laws.
Oh, in-law.
Yeah.
All right.
My in-laws had a couch. It doesn't fit.
It's too big. So just the awkwardness of that would be my bad. We'll get to that later. So do your good.
I found my couch next to a dumpster. I had to spend a whole day like covering it in baking soda and using pet cleaner on it.
Does your wife know about that?
Oh yeah, she knows about it. Oh yeah. No, I smelled like cigarettes. It was gnarly, but I brought it in. I had a friend help me. We carried it inside. It nicked up the front of our door frame a little bit. And it barely fit in the door, but it's great. It's got the two like the ottomans that kick out from the side. You just pull the little lever and they flip out. Oh, it's an awesome couch. It just smelled like cigarettes for a couple weeks. Now it doesn't, though. It's been in my apartment for 4 years now. My good is that I ate 3 meals away from the facility while I was in Tahlequah, Oklahoma on Friday and Saturday. I had Brahms twice, and I had Whataburger.
Did you get a chocolate shake at Brahms?
Yes, I did.
Hell yeah, brother.
Number 2 combo, no mayonnaise, chocolate shake.
Twice is what I saw on Twitter, right?
Yeah, I did it twice. Yeah, I did it on... So Friday for lunch, I went to Whataburger, came back, did the show from my hotel room.
And you flaunted that Whataburger on the show.
I did. Then Friday night for dinner, I went to Brahms. And then Saturday on my way out of town, I thought, well, I'm hungry and it's a long drive and it's a very rural drive, especially to get to the state line. I'm going to go get Brahms again. And I did. And it was delicious.
Don't blame you.
And I ate it in a parking lot that was shared by a gas station and a dispensary. Which, to be fair, a lot of people have probably eaten Brahms in the parking lot of the dispensary, if I had to guess.
Yes. Yeah, certainly in Oklahoma. That's a big fact.
Do you have a bad?
Yes, my bad. You guys watch the Grammys?
Yeah.
No.
I did watch the Grammys with my wife last night. Good show for whatever the Grammys is. I mean, some things you like, some things you don't. That's how you experience music. My bad was Taylor Swift kind of snubbing Celine Dion at the end of the show. She's so excited to get her album of the year, and she kind of dissed Celine, who's a living legend, and B, doesn't make a lot of public appearances anymore.
Well, no, because she got some massive health problems.
Stiff person's syndrome is what she was diagnosed with. So she doesn't make a lot of public appearances. Her appearance last night was this big surprise, big reveal to present the big award, album of the year. And Taylor Swift is doing the, oh my gosh, I can't believe I won, which doesn't hit the same when you've won 4 album of the year awards, which is more than anyone ever. But man, she kind of dissed Celine. She didn't like.
They did take pictures after the fact.
They took a picture, yeah, because Taylor Swift's PR team knew a disaster when they saw it. Like you can't snub Celine, man. You can't do that. Taylor, you got to be better.
Also, smartest woman on earth. Not that we already didn't know that. She got her 13th Grammy, and then her favorite number's 13. As
then announced the album.
Yeah, she announced her next album because she got her 13th Grammy. Like.
Yeah, I had a lot of take. I mean, I didn't watch it. I just followed a little bit along on Twitter while my wife and I watched an old season of True Detective. two things. One, she was not the most talented artist who announced a new album yesterday. That would be Casey Musgraves. And two, I saw a picture of her with Lana Del Rey. So we got to see the single most overrated female pop star of all time and Taylor Swift.
Wow.
Lana Del Rey. Garbage.
She brought Lana Del Rey up on stage for the Album of the Year acceptance. Lana Del Rey was nominated for that award. It would be like if her boyfriend dragged George Kittle up on the podium when the Lombardi Trophy was presented on Sunday. And like, and George, he's one of the best. I love this guy. He's one of the great tight ends, and I hope history remembers him well. Like, yeah, even though I won this award that he was trying to get, it was a little weird. But yeah, man, Taylor Swift snubbing Celine. That was my bad.
My bad and my ugly are just going to go together because it's turning into ugly, but it's bad. So kind of teased it there. Dan's in-laws are giving away a couch. And I was offered said couch at an amazing price, by the way, which would help me vastly in my life right now. And, you sent me the measurements.
Yeah.
And I probably was in my apartment for 3 hours trying to figure out where in the world I could put this because it's an amazing price and it would save me a lot of time. And my apartment is, shout out to my apartment because it's cheap and it's going to help me, after falling down to where I was prior to here.
Sure.
It's helping me a lot right now because it's an affordable price at a great place. Like, I've not had any problems yet, knock on wood, but this is just the most awkward setup into an apartment ever because you walk in and there's it's a 4x4 of flooring, like fake tile, whatever, laminate flooring to walk into. So you don't obviously get stuff on the carpet. Then it's I didn't measure it, but I should have. It's the weird left side of your room where the internet hookup is supposed to be your living room, right? And then the right side, also very weird, before it hits the closet area with the utilities and stuff, it's your dining room area where there's a light and it makes sense to be a dining room area, but it's just very awkward. And for the life of me, couldn't figure out how I'm going to fit a couch after I realized that one wouldn't fit really at all. Any size couch is going to be so awkward in here because of the way the door cuts off the room.
Sounds like it might be futon o'clock.
That's probably where we're going to go. But I don't know. We might hold things off because the girlfriend is going to be moving here in the summer. So might try to see if I can talk to my complex and move to a 2-bedroom, maybe. I don't know. We'll see what we can negotiate down the line. But my ugly is that no furniture really fits into my apartment, and my apartment just looks weird when you walk in.
It's like those pictures that circulate on Twitter once in a while. It's what else could a man need? And it's a folding chair, a TV, and an empty pizza box.
Like a lawn chair.
Yeah.
That might be where I go to have a table in here.
Get some TV trays.
Yeah.
Get a TV tray.
A single one.
Yeah.
My bad is that K-State lost to Oklahoma State. I don't care how many points it was. I don't care how the game unfolded. Oklahoma State is awful, and you cannot lose that game. We'll talk a little bit more about that next hour. Any ugly for you?
My ugly was the officiating crew at Iowa State Baylor. One of the most hilarious games I've ever seen, but Jeb Hartness, Chance Moore, Christopher Merlot, that was embarrassing. That was a disgrace to basketball. Even Mac Rhodes, the Baylor AD, said that after the game, that was not acceptable for the Big 12 conference. And his team won the game. So that should tell you just what a disaster that game was all the way around. It was brutal. Scott Drew got ejected for leaving the bench area, leaving the coaching box. And if they're throwing people out for that now, Shaka Smart is never going to see the final minute of a basketball game for the rest of his coaching career and may not even see the second half of a game if that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, my ugly is also officiating from the Washburn games this weekend. I'm going to give a little tip to you professional referees out there. If a player is jumping, you can watch them throw their arms out for momentum and jump onto the floor. That's not a foul, that's a flop. Every single time. And the crew that did Washburn's women versus Northeastern State, get a clue. That'll do it for our good, bad, and ugly. Coming up next, Matt Verderame joins us here on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is Matt Verderame, who covers the NFL for Sports Illustrated. You can find his work in the magazine and at SI.com. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Matt, are you on the ground in Vegas?
I am not. I was on the ground in Mobile in the Senior Bowl. I'll be on the ground in Indy for the Combine. But with everything that is currently going on at the company that I work for, they're going a little bit skeleton crew this year. So I am home, which I got to be honest, I'm kind of actually happy about. I think it's the first time to be able to sit down and eat and relax during a Super Bowl for about a decade. So I'll take it.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Before we get to the Super Bowl itself, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the Matt Verderame show. You just announced it on Twitter a little bit earlier today, and I think Chiefs fans in particular are going to be pretty fired up about this.
Yeah, thanks. So this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. I am calling it the Matt Verderame Show, not because I have a huge ego, because it's easy to search. It's on Patreon. There's a couple different tiers. You can either sign up for like $5 a month or $10 a month, depending on how much content you want. But there's going to be at least 2 shows every week, and then there's going to be bonus episodes. There's going to be emergency pods. It's a video podcast. It's recorded. So you don't have to watch it live. You can watch it anytime you want. And we're going to have great guests. I mean, at this point in my career, I've got a Rolodex of people that I can call on, whether they're Chiefs people or they're national people pertaining to the Chiefs. And so I'm looking forward to it. The first show is going to be Monday, the day after the Super Bowl. Hopefully for Chiefs fans celebrating something glorious. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping that, with my insider knowledge of the league and the team, plus the guests, I'll do a mailbag section, have fans ask questions, and I can answer them right there on the pod. I think all that combined with some other stuff I'm trying to line up right now, I think it's going to be really fun. And I hope people go to Patreon and they search out the Matt Verderame Show. You can also see it on my Twitter feed. You can go right there. The link's in the description.
Well, that is absolutely awesome, Matt. We're super fired up for you. Very excited for the show to come out and debut again 1 week from today, day after the Super Bowl. That's the Matt Verderame Show. You can find it in a couple different tiers as well over at Patreon. As for the game itself, coming up in just 6 days' time, Matt, Super Bowl 58, we asked this earlier in the show. What is one thought or take or opinion you've had about this game, about this matchup that you have had since the game was, since we found out who was playing all last week into this week that you just aren't going to budge from? Something you just feel in your bones about this game?
The biggest mismatch in this game is Spagnuolo and Purdy. I know Shanahan's a wizard offensively, and Shanahan's offenses have actually done okay against Spagnuolo in the past. Haven't won, but they've been effective. I just look at this game, and every single way I look at it, I just keep thinking, look, no matter how this shakes, unless the Niners can just run for an ungodly amount of yardage on early downs, the Chiefs are just going to relentlessly come after Purdy. I mean, most teams against the Niners, they see the weapons and they play zone and they back up and they're passive, and the Chiefs are the polar opposite of that. They're going to climb up on the line of scrimmage. Even when they're in zone, they don't play passive zone. They're very physical at the line. They play a ton of man coverage. They're not afraid to blitz 6, blitz 7. They don't care. Like, they'll get in cover 0. They'll play with a single high. They'll do unorthodox things. They'll drop defensive linemen to coverage. And I think Purdy is an average to slightly above average quarterback. I'm not one of these guys who thinks he can't play. I think he can play. But this is going to be a test unlike he's ever seen. I mean, you can look at all the film you want with Spags. He's so hard to prepare for because they do so much. I think that is a huge advantage for Kansas City coming into this football game.
Of the 3 levels of the Chiefs defense, which one has to play a perfect game in this matchup? Is it that defensive front, stopping the run up front and then getting after the quarterback? Is it the linebacker core with how much that the 49ers are able to do in the middle section of the field, bringing in those blitzes as well? Or is it the back end to trying to cover Kittle and Debo and Ayuk down the field?
I wouldn't say I think any of them have to play perfectly. I think that they can have a little wiggle room because I think Mahomes in the offense I think they'll be all right in this game. But to your point, I think of the 3, the linebackers have to play really well in this football game. Like, I think the defensive line is going to be helped out by the fact that Chiefs are just going to blitz from that. Like, I'd be shocked if they don't. The secondary, I guess this is a little bit of a caveat to the answer, but like, they've been so great all year I would just be very surprised if they don't play well. I mean, look, I'm not saying they're going to hold Purdy to 150 passing yards, but like, I'd be really surprised if they get torched. They haven't gotten torched all year. The linebackers in this game, you got to have good eye discipline. The Niners are going to throw a lot of motion at you. They're going to do some some play action stuff. And McCaffrey obviously is a guy you're going to respect the play action with. You've got to be able to tackle in space with this group. They throw a lot of stuff short to intermediate. You've got to be able to get your drops. I mean, I think if the Chiefs linebackers, and I think all four of them are going to play a significant role in this game, if they can play well and they tackle in space, they don't bite on some fakes and get burnt because now they can get open on the second level, I think the Chiefs, I think the rest of the unit will be just fine.
Matt Verderame is our guest here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline on 580 Sports Talk. Covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. Joins us Monday throughout the year here on 580 Sports Talk. You can check him out on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Matt, is it a bad thing that one of the two defenses coming into this game is openly discussing effort on long run plays and talking about unacceptable effort in the games that they won to get to the Super Bowl? Because that's the position the 49ers find themselves in. And that's a strange place for a Super Bowl team to find themselves in. You don't hear a lot of Super Bowl teams talking about unacceptable effort in like a winning effort in the NFC Championship game.
You know, it's funny. I don't put a lot of stock into this stuff because I always say, listen, it's about preparation, it's about having a good game plan, going out and executing that plan with the talent you have on hand. That being said, it's been a very bizarre week so far for the 49ers. Like, really, like, bizarre week and a half. You know, you've got Jed York talking about penalties that he thought should have been called 5 years ago. You've got Bosa talking about penalties that he wants called. He wants to see called with the tackles. Then they get to Vegas and they're complaining about the field is too spongy that they're practicing on, and they don't like the field, and it's an advantage for Kansas City. And then you had at one point last week, Travaris Ward talking about the fact that they're going to basically, it's Vegas, and they're going to have to get after it for a few days, and then settle in. And then, like, you listen to the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs would play this game in a rock quarry right now. Like, it's a very bizarre. It's almost dismissive, but like in a way that, like, hey, if things don't go well, this is why. It's very weird. It is weird. If the Chiefs were talking like this, I would hammer them. You should just be locked in on the game. Like, you're talking about hitting the craps table at the Bellagio on Tuesday. Like, what? You're an NFL player. Like, you could take a jet there anytime you want and spend $500,000, not even think twice about it. It's weird. It's all very weird. The whole vibe with San Francisco has been bizarre this entire last, whatever it's been, 7-8 days.
There's but so much you can take from a matchup that occurs a year before in the regular season to a Super Bowl matchup, but I think it still bears noting that the last time that Patrick Mahomes played against the San Francisco 49ers, he threw for 417 yards, and the Chiefs put up 44 points in a Week 7 victory last year. Obviously, there's a lot that's different. The defensive coordinator is different. That was the DeMeco Ryans defense. Steve Wilkes is calling the shots this year. But what, if anything, can the Chiefs look back at from that meeting last year, particularly given that, like last year's 49ers defense, this 49ers defense doesn't change its spots a lot. They kind of do what they do. What can the Chiefs take from last year's performance against this 49er defense and maybe bring into this game and throw some wrinkles at the 49ers to get them off balance?
Well, I think, listen, you're right. I mean, every year is different. And certainly as a new coordinator, at the same point, the 49ers personnel was pretty much the same. Now, obviously, they don't have Funga because he's hurt. They brought in Hargrave. But this is not a wildly different 49ers team, and they don't play that much differently than they played a year ago. Except for the fact, quite honestly, this year they're not as good defensively. Certainly up front, they're not as good. Bose is a monster. The rest of the front, you can do some things with. I went back and looked at the statistics for that game. The Chiefs had well over 500 yards of offense. They averaged over 9 yards of play. And that was in San Francisco. And the Chiefs had 2 turnovers in that game and just utterly destroyed them. And that was a game where it wasn't like, it wasn't obviously when they had Tyreek Hill. I mean, post Tyreek Hill. I think you're taking concepts from it and saying, look, we were able to get this guy free and we were able to get that guy free. And we ran this concept against this look. And we really circled this guy. We went after this guy. I mean, I think those are the types of things that when you look at the two teams, the personnel is not all that different. When you really think about it, Hufunga's not there for the 49ers. Devon Hargrave is. For the Chiefs, Juju's not there, but Rashee Rice is. And beyond that, it's not wildly different. Obviously, the Chiefs' offensive line a little bit different, especially if Tooney can't go. But it is an interesting look. If you're the Chiefs, I think you do look at it. Where defensively, I don't know that you can take a ton from that game. Purdy wasn't playing. McDuffie wasn't in that game. It was a different group in a lot of ways. Which, listen, the Niners played well offensively that night. Got smoked anyway. But yeah, if you're the Chiefs, you're definitely looking at that going, hey, look, we had a lot of success against a very similar looking football team. So let's take some concepts and run with them.
Matt Verderame, our guest here, Sports Illustrated NFL writer here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. And Matt, over the weekend, the Chiefs announced Jerick McKinnon they opened his practice window. If he's able to get on the field for the Super Bowl, how big of an impact could that make? Just because it seems like Edwards-Helaire just doesn't have an impact when he steps foot on the field.
Well, I would say this. I think the biggest impact would be they love him in the red zone. They love him down in the red zone. He's a really good receiver in that area. He gets himself open. He creates some space. That's where I think if he's going to play, you could really take advantage of his presence. I don't think all of a sudden he's going to be seeing a lot of carries. Pacheco, I mean, look, there's no tomorrow. Pacheco's getting the ball 25 times if they want him to get the ball 25 times. They could use him a little bit in the blocking department. He's a better blocker than CEH, not even close. So you see him on some third down. It's one of those things. I mean, if you're, not to be cliche, but if you're McKinnon and you can go at all, you're going to go. I mean, it's the Super Bowl. You played your whole life this. Obviously, McKinnon has a ring, but you have all off season to heal. And now, look, if you can't go, then hey, you can't go, and there's no shame in that. But if you feel like, you know what, I've got 15 snaps in me, you're going. I mean, this isn't the AFC wild card round. You're not sitting there going, well, maybe next week. This is it. So, and McKinnon, for him, it's his former team he's playing against. So I would think that yes, if he can go, I look for red zone snaps, third down snaps, pass pro, stuff like that. I think that's where they would really try to, utilize him most. And
staying on the injury front, Tooney, do you think he's got a legit shot to play in this game?
From talking to people around it, I think it's an outside shot. I don't think it's likely. I wouldn't rule anything out because you never know with things like this. They've had a hard time pinpointing exactly what's going on with his pec, whether or not it's a strain or there's a tear in there. I would be surprised. I'd be surprised if he plays. I don't think it's a 0% chance, but I think it's significantly less than a 50-50 proposition.
Chatting with Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated and SI.com, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. You can go follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Verderame, and of course, go check out SI.com for all of Matt's great work for Sports Illustrated. Matt, the player who you think is flying under the radar the most going into this game, someone who you think is ready for a major impact that maybe we're not talking about enough, who might that be?
This is maybe a little bit of a reach, but I think Shamari Connor could be a guy that by the end of the night you look at and go, that guy was a huge reason they won the football game. I mean, he's been excellent, and he's played a lot of snaps down the stretch for this team, whether it was because Mike Edwards got hurt, whether it was because they're just trying to get three safety looks, and of course Brian Cook's out. Connor has been very, very good, both in coverage as a slot corner and in his safety role in a variety of different ways as a safety. I mean, I'm not the biggest PFF guy in the world, but he's the highest graded Chiefs player in the playoffs on defense. I think that's reasonable. I don't know that I say he's the best player on the team defensively right now, but I think he's been terrific. The other guy who I would throw out there on offense, who I think, look, you've kind of seen the last 2 weeks. I never thought I'd say this. Marcus Valdes-Scantling is to a point now where you got to at least honor the idea that he could have one or two major catches in the football game. Life is about confidence. And if you don't have confidence, you're probably not going to perform well. He has not had confidence all year, and he's had no reason to have confidence. He has it right now. He has been a huge reason they have won these games the last couple of weeks. And with a guy like MVS, you don't need him to catch 9 passes. He could catch 1, and it's the difference. So those are a couple of guys. I don't think you're going to sit there and go, wow, that guy's the Super Bowl MVP. But I do think you could walk away from the game going, you know what, that guy made a big difference in the football game.
All right, Matt, before we let you go, what's your pick for Super Bowl 58?
I might eat this. I think the Chiefs are going to put it on them pretty good in this football game. I do. I think Purdy against Spags is a big problem. I think Mahomes against the defense that he knows what's coming is a big problem. And I just think the Chiefs right now, they're just peaking. They're playing their best football, and the Niners aren't. I'm going to go pretty significant here. I'm going to say the Chiefs double them up, 34-17. I think they win going away.
Matt Verderame, you can find all of his work in Sports Illustrated and at SI.com. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame, the host of the future Matt Verderame Show on Patreon, which you can find the debut episode of coming up 1 week from today. And he joins us every Monday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline to talk all things NFL. Matt, we appreciate the time. Enjoy watching the Super Bowl and vegging out at home. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
That is Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. Real quick, before we get to the end of the hour, a reminder, we will get ready for Super 58 coming up on Thursday from Prairie Band Sportsbook at the Prairie Band Casino in Mayetta. Excited to see you guys there for 580 Sports Talk 2 until 6 all day for the show Thursday afternoon. We've got more 580 Sports Talk coming up after the news. way home on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, Spencer here with you. Thanks so much for spending some of your Monday with us. We've got one more NFL game to go this season. It comes up on Sunday, a game you can catch right here on 580 WIBW. Kevin Harlan, Kurt Warner, and crew on the call for Westwood One. Chiefs versus 49ers, Super Bowl 58. We will talk more about this Super Bowl matchup coming up in just a little bit. We asked Matt Verderame about his thought for the most underrated and under-the-radar players in the Super Bowl. We'll get our picks coming up a little bit later on in this hour. We've also got today's What is Wrong with You, sponsored by Top City Metal Supply. I found this story that I've got for today last week, but because we had the championship for January and then I missed a day, I've just had it up on my computer in my office for almost a full week at this point. And I'm very excited to share it because it is unhinged. Very, very much looking forward to that. And we'll talk some college hoops in just a few moments as well. Great weekend for KU, brutal weekend for K-State, wild weekend overall around the Big 12. We'll get to all the action from the weekend. We'll talk Sunflower Showdown later on in the broadcast today. 5 o'clock hour, we'll get you our full preview of KU versus K-State tonight. We'd love for you to text in or message us on YouTube your thoughts on anything we're talking about today. Text line number, you know it. It's 785-272-9429. And, of course, the YouTube stream can be found on our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, and that is the easiest way to go find our daily streams of the show. We were just talking during the top of the hour break about the Grammys, and I know that Taylor Swift won Album of the Year. Yes. I knew that. I didn't know any of the others. I have open right now just the list of winners and nominees for all these albums. I have gotten to a point, and I'm not even 30 yet, but I'm at a point where like I will just accept that there are some people that I will never know who are nominated for Grammys. There are some people who I will have heard of and I don't get it, and I just will never get it. I was telling you Ice Spice. That's the new one. Like, yeah. My wife has explained who she is, and I understand that she is famous and very popular and apparently friends with Taylor Swift.
Yeah, she was on the Karma remix. Come on, step your game up. How do I know this? I'm the old guy in the room. How do I know who's on the Taylor Swift Karma remix?
Dog, I was listening to like Bad Religion and the Misfits on my way to work today. Like, I like some modern pop music. Like Olivia Rodrigo, shout out. She was nominated for Album of the Year.
Yeah, she performed her the third best song off that album last night. It was nominated for a bunch of awards.
Oh, which one was it?
Vampire.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. It's a decent
also
song.
Clearly the third best song off that album. I don't know why that's the bigger hit than Get Him Back.
Because the industry wants it to be.
I walk around singing Get Him Back by Olivia Rodrigo like all the time.
That one, what's the Love is Embarrassing? I think that might be my favorite one off that album. Yeah, it's a great album. So I know her.
Yeah, she got heaters. There's no question.
But like Coco Jones was nominated for Best New Artist. I don't know who that is. I'm sure she is extremely talented. I will never know who she is. Yeah, and I just have to accept it.
Best New Artist really flew over my head. I knew less than like they nominated a lot of people for that award. That was the one that made me feel washed. Like, okay, I don't know any new music. All these legacy acts like Taylor Swift and Miley Cyrus, I know them. But I got nothing for you on like Noah Kahan or whatever his name was.
Noah Kahan.
Is just Kahan?
Yeah, so it's like Tyler Childers. Do you know who Tyler Childers is?
I do.
That is a name I have seen written down on a piece of paper.
It's like the new Tyler Childers, but he's actually becoming relevant earlier in his career.
It's very folky.
Yes.
Very folk music.
Kind of music, yeah. Kind of like a new wave folk kind of thing.
Did you guys hear about this bizarre moment that took place? I'm trying to find the guy's name, but I'd never heard of him, and he won an award for like best new hip hop artist or something.
Oh, Killer Mike!
They arrested Killer Mike.
He got arrested.
Dog, I love Killer Mike.
I've never heard of the guy.
Killer Mike rules.
From Run the Jewels? Killer Mike and LP?
Anything?
RTJ?
Nothing?
No?
Nothing.
No?
But I saw that he got arrested. I saw it on Twitter, and I just was like, "What?"
They hauled him off.
Did we figure out what he got arrested for?
It was I don't know.
I'm not sure what it was either.
Yeah, they waited till he won his Grammys and then hauled him off.
Nobody has a reason why.
Per XXL magazine, his son is also receiving a kidney transplant today.
Yeah.
He clearly is not still in custody because he's been tweeting all day.
Yeah.
So he clearly
be hard to do that from the Bing. So no, Killer Mike's awesome. That's an award winner I actually know.
Yeah, I actually know Killer Mike,
but
I don't know Killer Mike.
I got nothing for you on a lot of the like the new artists, I guess. Like I marked out when Billy Joel came out. I'm like, oh wow, new Billy Joel, and then the song kind of sucks. Like it sounds like if you told AI to write a Billy Joel song.
Apparently, he got into a physical altercation in L.A. yesterday.
Oh, come on. That don't arrest him for that.
Yeah,
Come
that's
on.
silly.
Kylie Minogue won something. That's cool. I love that it's the year 1999 again.
In so many ways.
That's awesome. It does feel odd that that Boy Genius won a rock performance Grammy, like that was also being contested by Metallica and the Foo Fighters. Like those feel like very different.
Extremely.
Rock is doing a lot of lifting there.
Yeah. Rock contains multitudes, clearly.
I have a take on something that occurred, a performance that occurred last night, and I know Dan is going to be totally against my take because he tweeted about it.
Okay.
I know where this is going.
So obviously, you guys know I'm a country music fan, and I have a time or two at a concert been confused to be Luke Combs.
The thing about Spencer is he would finish no worse than third place in a Luke Combs lookalike contest.
No, that's true.
At any bar in any city in America.
No, that's going to get you a lot of beers.
You are finishing on the podium at a bare minimum, no matter. You're going to win your share of Luke Combs lookalike contests, and that's not. I mean that as a compliment.
I've taken it as a compliment at this point.
You favor the gentleman, anyhow.
So last night, Brendan, I don't know if you know this. You probably saw on social media that Luke Combs performed with Tracy Chapman a song that Luke Combs covered.
I watched the video. Yeah.
Did you watch the video before? Did you watch the video that they did on it? On why he did it,
like the introductory video. They did. They played a video where he explained that he's always loved the song. He's been playing it as long as he could play the guitar. And
yeah, I had heard about that. Kind of stuff
and
before.
It does. It rang sincere coming from. I believe in Luke Combs' sincerity and the appreciation and respect and reverence that he had for Tracy Chapman throughout that performance. That was genuine, and I gained a new appreciation for Luke Combs, like as a person. Seeing that, actually watching that unfold. His version still doesn't need to exist. Like Tracy Chapman's version.
The whole reason it exists is because of the fans. So if you've been to a concert, you know a lot of times they'll do covers,
sure,
right? Well, everyone wanted him to release it because they were streaming it on YouTube so much. So he was like, "Well, I'm just going to put this out." If you don't know anything about streaming, if you put out a cover, you don't get any residuals for it, because it goes to the person that wrote the song. So he was getting no money for this at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans wanted him to put it out on streaming. So he did that. But the thing about it is he kept true to like the song. He didn't change it from checkout girl to checkout guy. Like some people would do that.
Yeah. And that's, again, I don't listen to enough of his music. I had this conversation with somebody I know on Twitter. I don't listen to enough of Luke Combs' music to clock like what makes a Luke Combs song a Luke Combs song. So I don't hear anything in that his performance that makes it unique, that makes it sound like anything other than a white guy doing karaoke of a black woman's song. That being said, I have a renewed respect and appreciation for his respect and appreciation for that song and the performer. I thought it was a cool moment, even if I'm ever in the mood to listen to Fast Car, I'm going to go right to Tracy Chapman's version.
The whole thing is he never wanted to put it out.
She has probably made so much money on it since she's the sole songwriter.
Yeah. So
she won a country music award for it.
Yeah.
The first black woman to win a country music award.
Also first black woman to chart, I think in the top 10 or something.
Wow. Well, good for her.
But basically he didn't want to put it out.
Doesn't
and
speak real highly of country music, but that's a whole other thing.
He didn't want to put it out. And then somehow it was so well listened to that country radio itself started playing it.
Yeah.
So if it's on country radio, it's because country radio itself was playing it because they saw the stream.
And obviously she must approve of it because she shouldn't do stuff like this. It was her first live performance in 9 years. But yeah, it was very buzzy. A lot of people were talking about it last night, and it's just a wonderful song. Like it's a
great song.
It is a perfect 10 out of 10 song. And even if it sounds like karaoke to me from Luke Combs, it's still very competent karaoke, and he was having a lot of fun with it.
Much of the karaoke scene is not. So
I will say he didn't win for it, and I'm happy about that because he didn't win. Like I think he won for it at one of the country awards, and it's not his song to win. That's what I don't understand why he was nominated with that song. He has a couple other songs that from this last album that should have won, and I'm totally against him winning for this song.
Well, I get that.
Yeah, I understand.
I get that.
Yeah.
There are some sports we are going to get to in this 4 o'clock hour. I do promise you that. College hoops from the weekend. We'll get to the Super Bowl a little bit later on. KU. It is very dumb to count out KU. I know Kelvin Sampson after the game was playing it up a little bit, but he said it. I don't remember what word he used specifically, but he essentially said it was disingenuous. It was inappropriate. He goes, "How do you ever make Kansas an underdog? How do you especially ever make Kansas an underdog here?" And yeah, he's got a point. And look, I have something I do every year. You know about this, Spencer. You're going to learn about this right now, but also come like 5 weeks from now when Selection Sunday rolls around. Ever since I was in the 6th grade, I believe it was. Maybe it was 7th grade. No, it was 6th. It was 6th. I've picked KU to win the national championship every single year. Okay. Every single year. My bracket is filled out. I essentially work backwards. Like, okay, put Kansas in for my championship and then build the bracket around.
So you're
that.
one of those guys that literally goes Kansas,
and then does the rest of the bracket.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've done it long before I ever knew I was going to be a student at the University of Kansas, when I was, again, in 6th grade in LaGrange Park, Illinois. And my buddy who works for Stats Inc., he shoots me a text the other day after KU lost to Iowa State, and he goes, "Once again, I am begging you, please do not pick Kansas to win the national championship this year." And I said back, like, "Hey, dude, look, does it look bleak now? Yes. But KU at its best is as good as any team, if not better than any team in the country. Our starting 5 is the best team in the country, the best starting 5 in the country. And if you go beat Houston next weekend, you've got the best set of wins of anyone in the country." So KU throttles Houston. And he texted me back and said, "Okay, you know what? I might actually have KU as the number 1 seed in my bracketology this week," because they really are. Like, that is how good this KU team is at its best. It is just a matter of consistently getting to that best. Houston, according to the metrics, I think KenPom still has them number 1 in the country.
I think that's right.
Even after that game. Best defense in the country. They hadn't allowed more than 62 points or something all year.
They allowed 72 to Texas, but it was an overtime game. So, yeah, they hadn't given up anything close to the 78 KU put on them in 40 regulation minutes. They still have the number 1 adjusted defense in the country, and it isn't even close. It's like there's nobody close to them. They are the best defensive team in the country, and Kansas made 16 of their first 20 shots. It was a clinic offensively.
Crushed them.
Because the thing that Kansas can do uniquely is that Houston loves to double the post. They want to, and a lot of teams like to do this, but the idea is when you double a big man, the big man is typically A, not 7'2", and B, not a very good passer. And so what you end up getting a lot are turnovers, or the ball stays on the same side of the floor. You don't get a lot of ball reversals out of the double team. But Hunter Dickinson is 7'2", and Hunter Dickinson is a good passer. And you know who else is a good passer? The 4-man for KU, KJ Adams, who ended up with 7 assists on Saturday afternoon. And so Kansas just beat up Houston's defense, took them out of what they wanted to do. Now, Houston lost Javier Francis early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He took a nasty fall, and Francis is 6'8", 240. He's the one guy that maybe could have muscled and banged a little bit with Hunter Dickinson for the duration of the game, and they lost him. He only played 4 minutes. That was a big deal, but I think the bigger deal was while he was out there early in the game, that's when Kansas was making almost every shot they took, and they got a lot of transition opportunities. They got layups, they got open threes and made their open threes, and they just feel, and it felt this way from Johnny Furphy's first start, they just feel complete. Like that 5 makes so much sense.
Yep.
You have to guard them differently because you have to guard Furphy on the perimeter. He's shooting the ball at an elite level, and that was the only thing that was missing from that starting 4 is they didn't have the one guy who you absolutely could not leave alone from the perimeter. Well, now they have that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Furphy is, in the parlance of Bill Self, a real guy. And he's playing terrific basketball. He had 14 in the first half.
Since inserting him in the starting lineup, according to Bart Torvik, KU has the number 3 team in the country, according to all efficiency metrics, and number 2 offensively since he got put in the starting lineup. Like, increased role for that guy has led directly to more success for KU. And he's not the only one. Like, Hunter Dickinson is a freak. I mean, he is so good. And
Great player.
It is a cheat code that you can stretch him out. It is, even if he could only play in the paint, he would be a dangerous player. But the fact that you can stretch him out all over the forecourt is a huge deal. McCullough getting back to being himself. And I think it is very clear that he was load managed on Tuesday night against Oklahoma State. Yes. I think that is about as obvious as it gets. But we'll get to Oklahoma State in a second, but that's fine. You wanted, you knew you could win that game without him. You probably aren't winning this game without him in all likelihood. He was out there. He was awesome. KJ Adams he is the wind beneath my wings. He is an unbelievable. He is the best glue guy in America.
He is the most Houston Cougar of the Kansas Jayhawks. I workshopped that take on Twitter on Saturday, that he is the guy who plays like he could go play for Kelvin Sampson and fit right in just because of the way that he plays and the things that he does. Like, he fits that team and he fit that game.
Yeah.
Like his aggressiveness.
His dog.
Yeah. He fit that game. They needed him to play well in that game. He only had 10 points, but like I mentioned, he had 7 assists. Like, how many 4 men are giving you 7 assists?
Not many.
In a game against the number 1 defense in the country.
When he's not even like not a true stretch 4. Like, he's not spending a lot of his time on the perimeter anyway.
Yeah.
He's still inside a whole bunch. Having that guy with his toughness, his nose for the ball. I mean, it's almost a perfect combination in terms of complementary skill sets that KU has in that 5. Just, can you survive the minutes when someone gets into foul trouble, or when you have to play El Marco, or when you have to play some more Parker Brown? Can you survive those minutes? Can you be better than like -5 in those minutes? Because if you can, then KU's got a chance to win a national championship. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
They were +1 in the Parker Brown minutes on Saturday.
There you go.
Played 8 minutes. They were +1. He made a 3 from the top of the arc.
Good for Parker Brown.
And they needed that one too, because that was when LJ Cryer was starting to like emit smoke and flame from his hands. And Cryer almost led Houston back. He was their best player by far, but and Houston's still really good. They just, it's a little bit like, we talk about the 49ers and we talk about the game state, to switch sports into a cross-sport analogy here, where it's really important that the 49ers get ahead in games because they're not really equipped with what they do to play from behind as efficiently. Houston's the same way. Like, if you can rock Houston's world and get them playing from behind and make them shoot a bunch of threes, they shot 29 3-pointers. They never want to shoot 29 3-pointers in a game. They only made 9 of them. And that was a big key for Kansas to not only be as efficient as they were on offense, but to get out to the big lead. They took a 15-point first half lead, and it didn't feel like there was a way back for Houston, and there wasn't.
Real quick, I also wanted to add here, and I just had a note. The top 2 defenses in the country, according to Ken Pomeroy, Houston and Tennessee.
Yeah.
K's beaten both of them and looked really, really impressive against Houston. K-State lost to Oklahoma State on Saturday. So I did not see any of this game. I have since gone back and I watched the condensed version of the game.
I watched the whole second half. I listened to the first half on my way to Allen Fieldhouse. I watched the whole second half.
So my game started at 1:30 for Washburn, 1:15 pregame, so I didn't have time to tune in. I assumed K-State had won. I saw some consternation on Twitter from some K-State fans. I saw some, the Go Power Cat folks who were like, hey, what the hell's going on here? I just figured it had ended sort of like the game at Bramlage did, and K-State won, and that was it. And I get out of the Washburn game in Tahlequah, and I make the 4.5, 5-hour drive back home. I finally get to my home. I sit on the couch. I open up 24/7. I want to go check the KU message boards, the fog.net boards. Then I go over to see the Go Power Cat board, see what Fitz and the crew were talking about, and I find out, wait a minute, they lost? No, they did not lose. And then I went and I checked the score app, and yep, they indeed lost to Oklahoma State. They now, in 2 games, are -2 in point differential against Oklahoma State this year. I think tonight's game is going to be closer than some people believe it will be, considering where these 2 teams are entering it from, because it is a rivalry game, because that place is going to be going crazy. I do think it'll be a competitive game tonight, and we'll preview the full thing a little bit later on. But I'm not sure you could possibly feel worse as a K-State fan. Like, if you're a diehard K-State fan right now, and you love this basketball team, and you pay attention to them all the time, you know the ins and outs of the program, I don't know that you could feel worse going into a Sunflower Showdown than you do already. Knowing that your team going into this year, probably a bit worse talent-wise than it was last year. I mean, you had 2 All-Americans last year.
Yeah, they're no probably. They're not an All-American on this team.
And
never mind 2.
And never getting Naquan on the court, and things have just been kind of disjointed and awkward all year. but you were 4-1 in Big 12 play, and we were just saying stack wins. Win the games you have to win, and then steal a few others, like the Baylor game, and you're going to be fine. But then when you can't win those toss-up games or those, punching up games, and then you lose the punching down games, suddenly you are in a position where even if you're not completely out of the race for the bubble, you're trying to stay on the bubble, stay in NCAA tournament contention. Even if you're not completely out of the picture right now, it does feel like it is put up or shut up time for K-State, because this is as ugly of a stretch as I can not imagine. I mean, we saw the late stage Bruce Weber teams, but for a team that did believe within the last 3 weeks it was an NCAA tournament team, to be where they are now, it feels very dire.
They couldn't get enough stops. Like, I thought down the stretch, they played pretty well offensively. Perry, again, terrific in the second half after no showing the first. I don't know what it is. Maybe he's got to change the pregame playlist, get something different in his ears, different pregame meal, go out for stretching sooner. Like, I don't know what it is with Tyler Perry. But second half, Tyler Perry is a borderline all-conference type of player. And first half, Tyler Perry's on the side of a milk carton. Like, that can't happen. He's too important to Kansas State to only give them 20 good minutes. He's got to give them 40 good minutes. And for whatever reason, hasn't been able to do that. I don't know. He's not getting into the rhythm of the game. Like, again, I really don't know the root cause of it. But what Perry was doing in the second half, one, making a ton of threes. He made all 5 of his threes in the second half. But just the offense felt a little bit more in control. They were getting better shots. They were scoring almost at will. They were running good stuff for the last 10 minutes of basketball. They just couldn't get a stop. They couldn't stop Oklahoma State from scoring the basketball. They gave up 46 second half points, and they went to a 1-3-1 zone, and it flat didn't work. They missed David Gasson, didn't start the game, wasn't going to play until he basically begged his way into the game when they were losing, and he played 13 minutes all in the second half. Word is he's good to go tonight, but he's dealing with a knee thing, and they missed having him for the full because I think that by being their most switchable defender, you don't have to play zone when he's on the floor. Like, you don't have to resort to a zone when Gasson is out there. I think he helps them defensively and might have made a little bit of a difference if he'd been at 100% in this game. But yeah, they went to a zone. It didn't work. Like, they were not a good 1-3-1 team. Oklahoma State was scoring really easily against the zone. And some of it was they were making more threes than they usually make. And some of it was they started getting really easy looks around the rim. Like, there's just not, Jarrell Colbert played 16 minutes, and he's their best rim protector, and it wasn't him down the stretch. It was McNair in the middle down the stretch, and the teams aren't going to be scared of him. No. It's not working right now. Like, the pieces don't fit together right now. I said in the non-conference when they were having some of these same problems, particularly on offense, that they feel like a bunch of soloists without a conductor. They've got some talented offensive soloists. Cam Carter can get a bucket. Tyler Perry is a great shooter when he gets space. Arthur Kaluma can go get a bucket. Will McNair played a really good game offensively. I understand why they couldn't take him out. He was 6 of 7 from the field, 12 points, 9 boards. Probably one of his best games in Big 12 play. But it's a bunch of soloists, and you're not in rhythm if you don't have a conductor. And we keep coming back to this point for Kansas State. They don't have a conductor. They don't have a playmaker. They don't have the guy who makes it all go the way Marquise Noel could make it all go. Tyler Perry, for all of the things that he does do well as a player, he's just not that guy. And they haven't quite figured out a way to make it work consistently over the course of a 40-minute basketball game as an offensive unit without having that creator, that fulcrum of the offense. You look at the box score and it would tell you this was a really even game, and you probably feel hard done by, but Oklahoma State was in control for the better part of that second half. That is a really, really frustrating game for K-State. Now you're in desperation mode against an opponent that you don't really want to be in desperation mode against, because they're one of the best teams in the country.
I think, too, having seen Oklahoma State last Tuesday in person and Thompson going down with the injury, I, to myself, thought this on Friday. I think I spoke on the show, too. I thought Kansas State was going to find their way and they were going to blow Oklahoma State out of the water. And I mean, it just, when you're looking at the stats, it's not even bad. They didn't even shoot a bad game. Like, they shot 46% from the field. They shot better than Oklahoma State did. It just seemed like it was the small things and the little things, and the pure fact that Oklahoma State found more scorers than it had in a game against Kansas is ultimately what happened. But I think Kansas State has a lot to work on. But you have this rivalry game home tonight. I think that's huge, it being at home.
I do think it is a problem, though, when you say that, because like those dudes aren't out there. Like you shouldn't face that team and worry about all the different guys who can score against you, because they don't have that kind of talent level. Like, I think you're spot on with that. Like, you should not have to worry about multiple guys going off when those are the guys that we're talking about.
Yeah.
We will preview the matchup between KU and K-State, the first Sunflower Showdown of the year, coming up a little bit later on in the show. Right now, after we get back from this break, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You coming up on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you time here on 580 Sports Talk? As always, What is Wrong With You is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications. That saves you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to metal with Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, right here in the capital city. 2 new stories today as we open up the week of What is Wrong With You. Dan, why don't you go ahead with our first story today?
Oh, that's so nice of you. I guess you're excited about your story so much you want to hold it back. So let's go with my story first. We're going to Walton County, Florida, where a Florida man is facing charges after using a fake check to buy a $140,000 Porsche and attempting to purchase luxury watches. Last Wednesday, 42-year-old Casey William Kelly was charged with grand theft of a motor vehicle and uttering a false banknote. Just 2 days earlier, authorities say Kelly drove off a Porsche dealership lot in Destin, Florida in a 911 Turbo. He allegedly handed over a cashier's check that he printed from his home computer to buy the car. The car was then later reported stolen. Now, some people might be satisfied feeling like you've pulled one over on the Porsche dealership and you got a brand new car with this obviously fake banknote that you printed off of your home Canon printer or whatever you got. But no, he thought he would do another crime and go try to buy 3 Rolex watches, handing over another fake check that he made at home for $61,521 to a jeweler in nearby Miramar Beach. However, the jeweler kept the watches until they could determine if the check would clear. Don't know if you believe this. The check did not clear. After his arrest, Kelly allegedly told authorities the checks had come from his home computer, not the bank. He has since been taken to jail.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder why the Porsche dealership didn't do the same thing. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
a cashier's check.
Yeah.
Maybe we should see if this is legit before we let this guy drive a Porsche off the lot.
Yeah, well, and you would think that a high class car like that would not have a little more scrutiny, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think one thing you buy, like, you go to Dave's Motors on the corner and you buy like a 1998 Camry with a fake check.
A 3-wheel Dodge Neon.
Damn, we're out $1,500, guys. Man, that's tough. Be on the lookout for it. This is a Porsche.
It might actually save you money not having that car on the lot as opposed to one of these bad boys. Yeah, that's dumb. And don't commit, you know the rule, do not commit a crime while in the process of committing another crime.
Also, for sure, don't commit a crime where they take a picture of you standing next to your brand new Porsche.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's very funny that this guy, too, with his, like, the pattern of his shirt, I would describe it as 2013 Kansas NCAA tournament basketball uniform. Remember those?
Yeah.
Those hideous uniforms.
Oh.
That's the year Louisville won the title wearing sleeves. Yeah. No, those in and of themselves were a what is wrong with you? Those god-awful sleeved jerseys.
I think you Leaves fans should know what I mean when I say he got that shirt from Dan Flashes.
All right. For my story today, we're heading to North Miami Beach. You can probably imagine it. You're married. I'm married. Spencer's in a committed relationship.
Yeah.
If you suddenly got a letter or some sort of correspondence from an ex-girlfriend, you can probably imagine your girlfriend would not be very happy, right? You're
Yes,
like, hey, man, what the hell? What is that?
I think we would be equally surprised.
Well, yeah.
If that were to occur at this point.
This woman, Bertha Yalter, she went as far as to nearly kill her husband over a correspondence from an old girlfriend.
Oh, dear.
So that's bad enough. Here's the twist. The old girlfriend was from 60 years ago. A North Miami Beach woman is facing serious charges after she was accused of trying to kill her husband after he received a postcard from an ex-girlfriend from 60 years ago. According to the report, before 4 p.m. last Sunday, police responded to a home on 169th Street after reports of a domestic dispute that had turned physical. The preliminary investigation revealed that 71-year-old Bertha Yalter and her husband were involved in a dispute after an ex-girlfriend from 6 decades ago sent him a postcard. Man, if they are sending each other snail mail, this is not that serious. Okay,
No.
I'm being honest with you. According to the report, this couple had been married for 52 years. And she freaked out over a 6-decade-old girlfriend.
Yeah, you got to feel pretty good about the till death do you part of your vows if you're still together 52 years later, right?
Yalter, who looks like she might be 58 pounds soaking wet. This woman is frail and very small. Allegedly tried to smother her husband with a pillow, bit him, and physically battered him. Investigators say the victim was extremely fragile and had several serious bruises and open cuts on his arms and stomach. He also had open bite marks that were bleeding. Goodness, just ripping into him, gnashing at his skin. According to the report, the incident was captured on a cell phone and was given to the North Miami Beach Police Department. I don't really know how that all worked out. Yalter was transported to a correctional center and is facing attempted murder charges and aggravated battery on a person 65 years or older, as well as tampering with the victim. They've been married for 52 years. This girlfriend hadn't even been in the picture in 8 years by the time they had gotten married, and she still tried to kill her husband over it.
So yeah, this wins today. I just 60 years.
60 years.
Like, had he been offering any other inclinations or clues that maybe he was creeping? Like,
maybe
that's what I got to know. Like, was he, disappearing into the late night hours? Was he like, was he keeping, I mean, I'm get both of them are past work age. You got to think maybe both of them were retired, but, sneaking off, spending some nights with the boys at the racetrack or something, and coming home at 2 in the morning, like smelling like booze, some mysterious markings on the collar. Like, what I can't believe it would just be one postcard. Probably some woman like, oh, I remember him I saw him on Facebook in a Facebook group. Like, you grew up here when, and say, oh, I remember that guy. I should write him a postcard. I hope he's doing well. He almost got him killed. How do you feel if you're the ex?
Things that happened in 1964. The Beatles made their first appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show. Paul Simon wrote The Sound of Silence. Like, this is how long ago we're talking.
The Super Bowl wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah, we were multiple years away from the first Super Bowl.
I believe that was the Cardinals over the Yankees in the Super Bowl, in the World Series that year.
I just horrible. 60 years ago. That get your vote today, Spencer?
100%.
Yeah, that is our winner for today in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Coming up next, we'll get into some of the more under-the-radar contributors for Super Bowl 58. Coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Outside of your wedding invitations, when is the last time you mailed someone something? Not like I'm shipping them a Christmas gift, but like I have something written out, I'm putting it in an envelope with a stamp and mailing it to you.
So probably thank you notes
Okay.
for wedding gifts, thank you notes for Christmas gifts. My wife's really big on thank you notes, so now I am really big on thank you notes.
I get that.
So, but other than that, yeah, man, I can't remember last time I sent a postcard.
I don't know that I ever have. As a kid,
I'm right there with you. I don't think I ever have.
I would collect them sometimes as a kid. Like we'd go on vacation or we'd go drive somewhere and I'd buy one at a convenience store. Like, oh, cool. I've been to Ruby Falls, Tennessee. Like I'd save those. But no, I imagine sending a postcard to someone. She probably thought it was like really nice too. Like, hey, remember those good days back in 1964?
Remember that sock hop we went to that one time? Then we went to the soda fountain and played records on the jukebox.
All those sody pops we used to drink together.
Those were fond memories.
Hope you're doing well.
Yes.
Hope you're alive.
Yeah, no joke.
And then he barely was.
Yeah. Like I said, she's got to feel terrible. She got to feel like, if she hears about this story, it's like, man, I almost got this man killed. I had no idea what I was dealing with.
Unbelievable.
And then she tries to reach out again.
Yeah. I heard my last one didn't go over so well. Let me just say.
Could
Oh
it
my
now,
God.
though? Hold on. Could it now, though? If
I
the
mean,
wife
she's
is
going to
going
go
to prison.
She's going to
Yeah.
go to the Bing. Yeah, maybe he socked that.
I saw you have
postcard
some
away
more
for
free time
later.
now. You don't need a follow-up on this story.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 58 coming up on Sunday. Of course, you'll be able to hear the Westwood One broadcast, the national broadcast of the game right here on 580 WIBW. Since we had questions about this 2 weeks ago before the AFC Championship game, just a reminder, we do not have the rights to the Chiefs local broadcast, even though we are a Chiefs Network affiliate here on 580, due to the rule or the agreement between Westwood One and the NFL. Only the home market, so only Kansas City, and if you can hear the flagship station of the Chiefs, which is 106.5 in Kansas City, are you able to get that broadcast, the Mitch Holthus broadcast? Everywhere else, you can get the Westwood One broadcast. So that is why we will have Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner on the call for Super Bowl 58 on our airwaves.
It's
And
not a bad 1A.
No, that's the best consolation prize in the business by far. And of course, we will be getting ready for the Super Bowl coming up Thursday from Prairie Band Sportsbook at Prairie Band Casino in Mayetta, 20 minutes north of the capital city, up 75 Highway, just off of 150th Road. We're excited to be there. We're excited to see you there. You can come hang out with us, play some bets on the Super Bowl. We'll be hanging around all afternoon. We would love to see you guys up there at the book coming up on Thursday. We asked Matt Verderame this question, though, earlier on in the show, end of the 3 o'clock hour, just about an hour ago, about the most underrated or under the radar players for this Super Bowl. And he said it might be a stretch. I actually loved his answer, though, going with Shamari Connor, who has played some of his most important football over the last few weeks. And with the injuries on the back end to Mike Edwards, he has had to step up more. Deion Bush also has had to step up more. And those guys have taken advantage of the situation and have played really well. So I actually really liked Matt's pick of Shamari Connor, a core special teamer as well. So who do you guys say? Is there anyone who you think might have an opportunity to play a big role in this game? Matt also mentioned MVS, who might have to because the depth at wide receiver just isn't all that great for the Chiefs. And he has come up with big plays the last 2 postseasons now, this year included. Who is one of those guys who feels like they're not getting a lot of pub, but you think is going to play a big role? And that might be on the Niners side, too. Someone who is going to be a difficult matchup or someone who the Chiefs could be able to exploit, possibly.
I'll give you one for each team. And it's kind of a broad answer for the Chiefs, but I can't get 2 things out of my head when I look at how the Chiefs offense might attack this 49ers defense. I can't get the NFC Championship game out of my head where the Lions used a lot of pre-snap motion and a lot of getting the ball out to the perimeter to have success. What was their first touchdown in the game? It was an end around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jamison Williams dashing through the defense for, what did he go for, 50 yards? Something like that. It was a huge play for the
47,
first
I think.
Yeah, huge play for the first touchdown of that game. And then I think back to last year's game against the 49ers when McCole Hardman stole the show and had a multi-touchdown game for the first time in his NFL career. Because the 49ers defense is so static, for lack of a better way to put it, like they don't disguise a lot of stuff. They kind of line up and do what they do. They're not gonna, be moving guys around on the back end, disguising their coverages to great lengths. They do what they do. They play a lot of zone, and they trust that their guys will cover ground and make plays, and that if they do leave a cornerback like Charvarius Ward one-on-one, that he'll be able to win that matchup. That would open up opportunities, I think, for plays to be made in motion, plays to be made that get the ball out to the perimeter with some speed. It's why I think that McCole Hardman might have a role to play in this game, that a healthy Kadarius Toney might have a role to play in this game, not throwing him the ball, like putting it in gently in his stomach. But I do think there's a role to be played for that particular action in the Chiefs offense to maybe hit for a big play or two and keep that 49er defense guessing. Maybe Jerick McKinnon, if indeed he comes off of IR. If Matt Verderame was talking about, if he's got 15 snaps in him, maybe one of those is a bit of misdirection there as well. So I think it's the misdirection game, I guess.
Okay.
Is what I will say, in lieu of picking one guy like Hardman, Tony. It could be Richie James. It could be McKinnon. It could be Isaiah Pacheco used creatively as well in that way to get him the ball going out in space like that. For the 49ers, Kyle Juszczyk scored a touchdown in Super Bowl 54, and they used him a lot. They used two-back stuff a lot and get Juszczyk out there because as a lead blocker against a dime package, 6 defensive backs, which the Chiefs like to run a lot, he's really, really effective. So he might be somebody that makes a big impact as a blocker, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has an impact offensively and is somebody that maybe he gets the ball in the flat. Maybe he has, some numbers in the game that typically a fullback doesn't typically reach.
Yeah, I, on the other hand, I'm going to go on the defense. Spagnuolo talked about it in his meeting with the media on Friday. With the absence of Charles Omenihu towards ACL, obviously, Felix, I'm going to butcher his last name.
And Udike Uzama. I'm not going to give you a chance to do it. I'll help you out. Felix and Udike Uzama. King Felix, if you'd like.
King Felix, I think he wasn't needed during the regular season very much. There was a point in the beginning of the season where they kind of rotated him in, and he had a little success. He was flashing a little bit, and I think that success that he had a little bit during his rotation is what's going to push him into this game where he needs to be the guy on that defensive line with Omenihu out, Noddy obviously out, just the injuries that the defensive line has succumbed to.
I think for me, the defensive player that I look to, and I don't know that he's super under the radar because we've talked about him a ton on this show, and I think he's had a really good year, and everyone recognizes that. I do feel like Drew Tranquill is going to play a huge role in this game. I don't know that he's been talked about the most, but I do think he is going to play a huge role because of how successful the 49ers are going over the middle, the short stuff they run, trying to get you spread out, going sideline to sideline. Tranquill has been such an incredible pickup for this team all year long, and I think that athleticism, that downhill ability, I do think that's going to play a big role in this game because you've got to stop the run and you've got to stop the outside stuff. You've got to stop the inside stuff. I do think that is going to be an incredibly important. I think for the 49ers, if you were trying to pick one guy in particular, I think what they're going to try to do, if I had to guess, I think they're going to try to be uber creative at some point. I've been saying that I don't think that the 49ers are going to get bored of the run like Baltimore did. And John Harbaugh said after the fact, well, we wanted to run. We just felt like we couldn't, which you definitely could have. I don't agree with that assessment by John Harbaugh at all. I do think the 49ers are going to run the ball a lot. I think their interior of their offensive line is going to be the most important part, though, because while the Chiefs are going to be shorthanded without Derek Noddy up front, you've still got Chris Jones. You're going to bring a whole lot of different looks up the middle. I assume Tranquill and Bolton are going to be playing downhill through the interior gaps a bunch in this game to try to limit the open opportunities for Christian McCaffrey to run. Trent Williams is a star, and the 49ers love to use him. Have you seen the plays, and I'm sure you have, being a Seahawks fan and watching all their games, when they bring Williams in motion, when they essentially have him as the sixth lineman, they bring him across the formation, then out as a lead blocker outside. It's one of my favorite things that any team in the NFL runs. It's just beautiful to watch. This big, gigantic man.
The Lions do it a lot, too, with Penei Sewell.
Yes, they do it with Sewell, too. That's a good call. They are going to try to get creative with a lot of those things. I think Shanahan is going to go into this game like right off the rip. Maybe not, basis, but trying to be as creative as possible to get that Chiefs defense off balance. It is going to rely for them on the interior of their line to be solid, to be steady, to not allow the Chiefs to get home with that interior pressure because, like most quarterbacks, if you get pressure on Purdy up the middle, that is where you are going to force him into mistakes. He has been good against the blitz. He's been good against pressure all year, but interior pressure, much different than exterior pressure. And I think while we all know you want to force him into bad decisions, the best way to do that is to get guys right in his face. That's why I think their interior line, more so than Trent Williams, more so than the pass catchers, and Christian McCaffrey, obviously, too. Those are the guys who I think are going to be in the most important. They're going to be in the crosshairs. They are the most important guys, I think, for that 49ers matchup in this game. Coming up in the final hour of 580 Sports Talk today, we've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines, and there are a lot of them today. Plus, we will preview the Sunflower Showdown. We'll take your texts at 785-272-9429, and we will get to your comments on the YouTube stream as well. That's all coming up after the news in the final hour today of 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk on this Monday afternoon, February 5th, 2024. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, all here with you today. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, spending some of your afternoon hours on 580 Sports Talk with us. We'd love to get your thoughts on anything we're talking about today, either on the text line. That number is 785-272-9429, or you can join us in the YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. We'll get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up here in just a second. We will also get you a preview of the Sunflower Showdown tonight. You've been before, right? Sunflower Showdown at Bramlage?
Yeah, I went to last year's.
Last year's, okay.
Yeah, that was my first one at Bramlage. I went to one of them, I think just one at Allen Fieldhouse. It was the Svi Mikhailuk Give Me 3 Steps game.
Ah, yes. What a great song. I've been to 2 at Bramlage. I think just 2 at Bramlage. It might have been more than that, though. I remember being there in 2019. That was Cartier Jara's dunk.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being there. No, I've been to more than that. 2022, that was the Just Load the Wagons game.
Mm-hmm.
Right after Bill Self's dad had died, when KU had that 17-point comeback, and then at the end of the game, Christian Brown threw the ball in the crowd, which was so funny. And I was there as well.
You were at the throwdown, right? Were you
That was at Allen Fieldhouse.
Okay, you're just talking about Bramlage.
Yeah, I was just thinking Bramlage. Yeah, I was at the throwdown. That's one of the greatest events I've ever seen. We were so robbed of a bad boys KU team holding up a trophy that year between Snoop Dogg at the start of the year and then that
Silvio in the chair.
Oh man,
what
that was
an
awesome.
Iconic image.
Although, in the grand scheme of things, KU did win a national title 2 years later. That was kind of born out of the ashes of that 2020 season. And also, it would have been a lot harder to fire Jeff Long if KU had just won a national championship.
This is true. Everything in due time, right?
You shouldn't hate. That's a very negative emotion. It takes a lot of energy to feel hate for someone or something. I hate Jeff Long. I hate him. And I understand that might not make me the best man, but I hate Jeff Long. Yeah, it's going to be a blast tonight. The crowd is always great. That 2019 game as well, where K-State beat KU. You know what else was significant about that game?
I think I remember Barry Brown dunking the ball at the end.
There was
that his shout out to Brandon Green?
There was it was from the KU perspective. It was the last appearance in a KU uniform for LeGerald Vick.
I thought I remembered
there might have been another one at the end of that game.
A dunk at, either right at or right after the game, and I remember Barry Brown saying in his post-game press conference, "Shout out to Brandon Green."
I remember sitting there, and I've shared the story recently about that dunk. It felt like that was a very personal dunk by Cardi right in my face.
Like he pointed at you. He could have pointed at you after he did it.
He could smell KU alumnus from the media section. I remember vividly though, because I like to, some guys who work in covering games, beat writers or whatever, they'll leave the court before the game ends because sometimes it's already decided, but they like to get a good seat for the press conference, or they figure they want to beat the crowds out or whatever. And I always stay till the very end of the game. I never get up early. But I remember I unplugged my laptop. I put the cord in my bag. I had it zipped up. I was going to hold my computer and go. I was like, I am going to die if I am on this court because they are about to storm it like we've never seen, at least since, what would that have been, 2014? Who was it who stepped up on the table with Holly Rowe? Oh, God.
Oh, that's going to bother me.
Was it Thomas Gibson?
Oh, gosh. K-State fans, help us.
Because I'm going to be honest with you, even though that game saw KU lose, that's one of the coolest court storms of all time. That's also, I think, when Jamari Traylor got run into, which was very not cool.
Yeah, that was somebody bumped Jamari coming off the floor.
Not okay. Also, not the guy I would mess with. Yeah, and
I think it was Tom. It was either Gibson or maybe it was Shane Southwell.
They stood up on the table getting interviewed by Holly Rowe, who had like 8-inch heels on. It was pretty sick. Also, don't run into players if you storm the court. So yeah, that's some of the fonder memories. I saw someone earlier today tweet out video from the time that Will Spradling crossed over Joel Embiid and then laid it up around Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
Like, shout out to Coach Spradling, coaching at St. Mary's these days. The K-State grade. But yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast out there today. I swear I've been to maybe the 2020 edition of the game too. I'm sure I was. I was going to a bunch of games then, and I would have gone to that one.
Yeah.
I'm sure I was there. I don't remember anything about it. That was not exactly a memorable K-State team.
2020, no.
1920.
The only thing I remember about the 1920 season was Fran Fraschilla just undressing Cartier-Jada on a broadcast, just saying he doesn't care about being at K-State. He's only trying to make the NBA, and he's a bad teammate. Just lit him on fire.
I
during the
remember
broadcast.
that.
Yeah, that's what I remember about the 2019-2020 Kansas State Wildcats.
I also remember, speaking of Fran, from the throwdown at Allen Fieldhouse, the throwdown at the Showdown, after the fact, Fran went on, I think he went on radio in Manhattan and was asked by our buddy John Kurtz about the fight. And he was like, that is more effort in a fight at the end of a game than James Love has shown in 3 years off the K-State bench.
James Love.
Just wrecking
He was
him.
the one that had the white linen pants.
Yeah.
He was wearing the white pants.
Oh, man. Xavier Sneed was supposed to be like the guy for that team.
Mhm.
And we found out.
And he was a nice player, but he wasn't like an alpha dog. Like if
Yeah.
if that was your third or fourth best player, you could have a really good team. If that was your best player,
Like the year before,
Yes.
when he was the fourth best player
Yes.
behind Wade, Barry, and
Kamau
Kamau Stokes.
yeah, exactly.
You know, if you ask a K-State fan right now, if you were like, say something in Bruce Weber's voice, say anything in Bruce Weber's voice, I bet you a large percentage. Barry! Oh, Bruce. Very forgettable era of K-State basketball.
The end stage Bruce Weber that lingered a little too long. I still like Bruce Weber. I'm not going to say a lot of bad things about Bruce Weber, but when it was over, it was over.
It was very, very over. So we'll preview the Sunflower Showdown coming up in just a little bit, plus your texts, plus your comments on YouTube. Why don't we dive in with today's 580 Sports Talk headlines? We'll get to what led off the show, at least in part, what led off the 3 o'clock hour today. Bobby Witt Jr., the highest paid Royal in history, an 11-year, $288.8 million contract with a 3-year club option that could max the value out at over $377 million. There are also 4 opt-outs after years 7, 8, 9, and 10 of the contract. It is the 16th biggest contract ever given out in the history of Major League Baseball. And now we are down to 2 teams that have never given out a $100,000 contract.
$100 million.
$100 million. Yeah. Well, I mean, the A's are pretty cheap. No, it is just the White Sox and the A's now.
Yeah.
Which is
very
kind
funny.
of unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yes, highest paid Royal of all time, locked in through at bare minimum through the 2030 season, coming off of a 5-win year. This is great for the Royals. It is great for Royals fans. I have seen so many people I know who are just Kansas Cityans, who are working sports media, who have said things like, I have totally let my casual Royals fandom lapse, but knowing that this team is spending to bring in better players, has committed to keeping its best player, like, this has me excited. This has me wanting to go to the K this year. That alone should tell you this was the best move possible.
Weird. Getting good players for your team and investing to keep good young players on your team is good for building a fan base. Who'd have thunk it? It's a lot easier to sell that to your fans than say, hey, we're gonna stink out loud. I mean, the flip side of that is when you stink out loud, you give yourself a chance to draft a Bobby Witt Jr.
Yep.
So you better, like, if you're gonna stink, don't stink for long. But if you have 1 year where you stink, get a Bobby Witt Jr. in the draft.
Yeah.
Make it shake with him.
No, it is awesome, though. So cool for the Royals and cool for Royals fans. I am happy for you guys because this, like you said earlier, George Brett is the greatest Royal of all time. And Salvi is in this generation, but also
he's going to be the 4th retired number in Royals history.
Yes.
I think they'll retire 13 up there with 5, 10, and 20. And maybe one day 7 will be up there too. That's what you give yourself a chance to do. if you're Bobby Witt Jr.
And for young baseball fans, young Royals fans who love the sport, who are growing up with it now, like, that's your guy.
Yeah.
That is your guy. And that is a really cool thing to have.
That's very exciting. My first headline today, our 5A Sports Talk headline. Let's go to the AP Top 25 college basketball polls. Kansas, a big riser this week after they won a pair of games, including their win over previously fourth-ranked Houston. Kansas actually replaces Houston as the number 4 team in the country, moving up from number 8. UConn, Purdue, and North Carolina remain 1 through 3. No change at the top of the AP men's poll. For the record, I don't think people are talking about North Carolina enough. And I know they just lost to Georgia Tech, which was a weird loss. Mm-hmm. North Carolina's freaking good, man. Harrison Ingram on this KU team, I think they would be undefeated.
It would sure feel that way. And the thing that is frustrating about it, I won't spend too much time on this. They had him.
I know it.
By all reporting from Michael Swain, predominantly, pretty much said, had KU made it clear you are our guy, he would have come to KU and wouldn't have even considered anywhere else. But KU dragged its feet. North Carolina said, no, we'll make you that guy. Like, yeah, please come. KU's really good, but God, that piece would be nice to have right now.
I think they're the most underrated team in the country, North Carolina. UConn, Purdue, 1-2, Carolina, 3, Kansas and Houston rounding out the top 5. Tennessee, Marquette, Arizona, Duke, and Illinois round out the top 10. Other Big 12 teams ranked: Baylor 13, Iowa State 14, BYU up a spot to 21. Texas Tech, big dropper this week after a couple of losses. Lost at home to Cincinnati on Saturday.
Yeah.
They dropped 8 spots. They are 23rd. TCU is the second team out in this week's men's top 25. Over on the women's side, K-State dropped 6 spots to number 8 overall after going 0-2 last week. I watched a good chunk of the Texas game yesterday. It was on FS1. K-State could have really used Ayoka Lee. Is the takeaway from that game, is they just did not have the size to really contend with some of Texas's size, and they did not have the person they could throw it into to get a basket when they needed a basket. And so eventually you kind of figured that the absence of Lee was going to hurt Kansas State at some point. It just happened to be this past week, a couple of road losses to Oklahoma and Texas. But K-State does remain in the top 10. They are ranked 8th. South Carolina remains number 1 women's team in the country. Iowa, North Carolina State, Colorado, and Ohio State round out the top 5. Stanford, Texas, K-State, UCLA, and USC in the top 10. Other Big 12 teams ranked: the Baylor women are number 18 in the country. West Virginia's women are number 22. Oklahoma's women into the poll after a 2-0 week. They are 24th.
Can we go back to the men's side for a minute? Just general Big 12 thought here. I know that they're under 500 in league play so far. You know, almost half the league is under 500 in league play so far. I think Cincinnati, and I like Wes Miller. I've said that before. I really like Wes Miller. That, to me, feels like a team. I don't know if I want to say sleeping giant, but that feels like a program that I think could be a real power in the Big 12 going forward. Their season so far this year, they're 15-7, 4-5 in Big 12 play in their first year in this grind of a conference. Ken Palm's got them 30th in the country right now, has them ahead of Texas Tech as an example of one of the programs they're ahead of. I think that's a really good program. I think they've got a really good coach. I like the talent that they have. And I think that's a team that going forward is going to be in a Big 12 that outside of KU and kind of Baylor, but I guess kind of open season, like anybody, any year could be in that top 3, top 4. I think Cincinnati is going to take up rent there a whole lot.
They're the only program that joined the conference that has a national championship. And I know it's an old national championship, but there's tremendous tradition. There's a tremendous fan base. There's a lot of talent in the Midwest. Like, yeah, Cincinnati basketball should be really, really good in the Big 12.
I mean, Bill Self pretty much told us at Big 12 Media Day that had Kenny and Martin not gotten hurt in 2000, he thinks Cincinnati would have won one then.
I agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that assessment. So anyway, that's my first headline. What you got, Spencer?
My first headline is the Commanders swayed Cliff Kingsbury away from Vegas to be their new offensive coordinator. I believe we left the show Friday saying Cliff Kingsbury was going to be the Raiders OC. He had agreed to terms to be the Raiders OC, and then last night I guess it was Saturday morning, maybe?
Yeah.
It came out that he has decided to back away from the deal and is looking elsewhere. And then it was immediate, like, he could be a contender for the Commander's job. And then last night it becomes official. I think it's interesting. I was reading or actually listening up on this. Schefter was on Pat McAfee today, and that was one of the topics they discussed. I guess Vegas was trying to give him a 2-year deal. And I guess the norm for OCs is 3 years.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that's what the Commanders gave him. And he wanted, and it also had to do with the fact that he was going to be making a certain amount of money less because he's jumping back to the NFL based upon his contract. That is, he still had 2 more years of his contract with the Cardinals that it wasn't worth it for him to be on a 2-year contract. So he jumped to a 3-year contract. I think that's interesting. And then today was announced kind of a 2-part thing. Obviously, at that point, the Commanders officially had 2 OCs. We talked about this earlier in the show. Eric Bieniemy officially not retained on the staff. I think potentially we could see him return to KC in a way that Matt Nagy did after his failed attempt to be the Bears head coach.
Here's a question about that. If you're the Chiefs, do you want him back?
I mean, he was really well respected in the locker room. I think the question is, you're a Bieniemy. Do you really want to come back? Or do you want to keep trying to forge forward and make your own name and still try and be a head coach somewhere? Maybe the college game is next for Eric Bieniemy. He's been an offensive coordinator in college before. Wasn't a great tenure as the offensive coordinator at Colorado, but they didn't have any players then. John Embry was the coach. They were terrible. Nobody could have done anything with that. So I don't know. I think there would be more reluctance on Bieniemy's part than there would on Kansas City's part.
I think that's probably fair because, I mean, the whole thing was you left to go prove that you didn't need to be a part of the Chiefs system to have success. Do you really want to go back to that? Because that probably, and I say this right or wrong, that probably sends a message to a lot of people in the league, especially people looking for a reason not to hire you that says, oh, well, you went back because you knew that's the only place you could find success.
Yeah.
Which, again, right or wrong is, I think, how some people will view that.
Here's my question about this bit of news. What is the male equivalent of hot girl privilege? Because that's what Cliff Kingsbury has, whatever it is. Handsome boy privilege?
Yeah.
He's got handsome boy privilege.
Yeah.
We just assume because he's a very good-looking young guy that he's good at his job. Guy had a losing record at Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes. I will never believe Cliff Kingsbury is a brilliant offensive mind. I will never believe it. I simply will not.
Before I get to my take on it, I was going to ask you, Spencer, as a fan of the Washington Commanders, are you happy with this hire?
We'll see. I think
that tells me all I need to know.
Look, when he wasn't a head coach, at some points he's had a pretty good, or at the beginning of his tenure with Arizona, they had a pretty good offense. And then Kyler Murray got hurt and their offense wasn't very good. So he has to have a top tier quarterback. He becomes the Commanders offensive coordinator. They have the number 2 pick in the draft. Are they going to be contenders and moving up to potentially get Caleb Williams? Caleb Williams, a DC guy. He posted last night, happy for the guy that he was able to get this job. And Cliff worked with him last year a lot, although it wasn't Caleb's statistically best year in college. I think there's some hope. I don't know who else they would have brought in at this point. Honestly, Brian Greasy, I don't know. They would have had to wait till after Sunday. I don't know how that would have even. I think I take a guy like Cliff Kingsbury and see what he can do.
I think Cliff, at one time, was on the cutting edge of offensive football. I mean, he was part of the genius behind, Johnny Manziel becoming what he was in college, and he helped Patrick Mahomes become who he was. I mean, Mahomes was insane when he was at Texas Tech. The team sucked, but he was insane while he was there. I think very similarly to Chip Kelly, I think the things that made him a genius have since been kind of adopted by everybody, and it no longer makes you a genius. It just makes you a has-been. And to be honest, I thought he was a complete doofus as a head coach. That's about as nice as I can be.
Never had a top 10 scoring offense in 4 years as the head coach.
I don't think his players respected him. I think that is a problem. I don't think his players respected him. I know Kyler Murray didn't respect him. And I have my doubts, but, with the right quarterback, with a better, with ownership that's not god-awful like in Arizona, maybe it works out a little bit differently.
I think, too, he obviously didn't do well as a head coach, but that doesn't mean that he can't be a good offensive coordinator.
That's true.
And I think that people are looking at him being the head coach and running an offense while he also has to worry about the rest of the team. So the fact that he's only going to have to worry about the offense makes me a little more excited about it than it was if he was obviously set to become the head coach. And I think it depends on, I mean, Dan Quinn, he said during the press conference, or I think maybe it was the GM said he has some more tricks up his sleeve. I'd be interested to see position coaches and quarterbacks coach who they get as quarterback coach.
A couple other pieces of news and notes from coordinator searches around the NFL. According to Adam Schefter, Mike Zimmer and Ron Rivera, both in the running for the Cowboys defensive coordinator job.
Which is funny because it'd be like a trade.
Yeah, it really would be.
You get two from Dallas's defense because the new DC was the passing game coordinator, I think. And then you trade him for Ron Rivera.
Yeah, get Ron Rivera in return. I would not be surprised to see Mike Zimmer back. I think Zimmer would be an interesting fit for that job. He used to coach against Mike McCarthy when the two were in the NFC North. Also, the Raiders, who did not end up getting Cliff Kingsbury, they instead go with former Bears offensive coordinator and Packers quarterback coach Luke Getsy. And I will tell you this, as a Packer fan and Bear hater, if he goes to Vegas and they actually have a good offense, it would be one of the funniest things to ever happen in my football life. If years of, well, it's Getsy's fault, Fields is actually good, only for the Bears offense to stink with Fields and then Getsy to go be good elsewhere, that would be awesome to me specifically.
I got some breaking NFL news. Roger Goodell has been doing his State of the League press conference this evening in Las Vegas and just broke a little bit of news that the game to be played in Brazil next year, and the NFL has previously announced that they will play a regular season game in Brazil for the first time ever. We now know one of the teams, and we know when they're going to play it. It's going to be part of the opening week of NFL football.
Interesting.
So Thursday night is, of course, when typically the champions open at home and play the NFL kickoff game, like the Chiefs did this past season at home against the Detroit Lions. The Friday after, the next day, the Philadelphia Eagles will play an unnamed opponent in Brazil to open up their regular season for week 1.
Guaranteed Amazon is going to get that game.
So, probably so. Can I be honest with you? I kind of like that. Like, it is so hard to play these international games. And it's different going south because the time zone change is not nearly as bad.
The time zones don't throw you so bad, yeah.
But honestly, it's such a strain when you have these long trips during the middle of the season. You're in the zone, you're in your routines. I kind of like getting this done early. If you're going to play the games, I actually don't hate that at all. It sucks if you were hoping for 9 home games as an Eagles season ticket holder and one of them goes to Brazil. But, if you're going to play them, I kind of like having it early in the season before you really get deep into those rhythms. So I'm actually cool with that. And I'm telling you guys, that scene in Brazil is going to be awesome.
Yeah, they're going to be fired up for it for sure.
Crazy fans, huge NFL fan base. It's just a huge country. I think people don't realize how many people are in Brazil. But that's going to be awesome. That is going to be really cool. Mix Brazilian sports fans with Eagles fans. That is going to be a sight to behold. Truly, truly a sight to behold. Jam-packed day of sports headlines. Let's get to one more real quick one before we get to a commercial break and our Sunflower Showdown preview. Real quick. Kansas City is getting 6 World Cup matches in 2026. 6 of them. There are much bigger cities that are not getting that many games. That includes 4 group stage games in June of 26, a round of 32 game in July, and then a quarterfinal game as well. None of those group stage games will feature Team USA, so if you're hoping to see them, sorry.
They are all going to be out west. Their 4 group stage games will be in either Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium or Seattle at Lumen Field. They're doing a pod system essentially for the groups, and there will be a group that is located in like the central United States. And so whatever groups those happen to be are the teams you're going to see. Of course, we won't know that for quite some time, but still a big deal to get one of the quarterfinal matches. 6 total matches at Arrowhead Stadium, June 16th through July 11th of 2026. So, make your plans now. I know I'll be applying for a credential.
I was gonna say, you're gonna try to go.
I'm gonna try get media passes. Man.
There you go.
I don't care who's playing, man. It could be Guatemala and Liechtenstein. I want to be in that thing.
We've got to get to a break here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll preview the Clash on the Caw, the Sunflower Showdown, next on 580 Sports Talk. Okay, before we get to KU State, this needs to be brought up. So you heard Spencer moments ago when we made the comment about how the Eagles are going to play on Friday night, first weekend of the season in Brazil next year. And Spencer said, I think that game is going to be on Amazon. Said,
he says Amazon is going to get that game.
Yeah.
Immediately. No hesitation either.
Vance on YouTube said, really, Spencer? I just got it. A game in Brazil and Amazon guaranteed to air it. Hilarious. Spencer, would you like to tell us whether or not that was intentional?
That was at no point intentional. My thought was the Amazon, not the Amazon. Then I got it. It took me until about 30 seconds ago to realize the Amazon. But no, my thought was because they got Amazon has got they're like, well, if all the games on TV are on TV for Thanksgiving and we just started our package, we want to have a Black Friday game. Well, the Thursday night game to start the season has always been, I feel like, for the last 15 years on NBC.
Yeah, it's
right.
NBC.
Yeah, they get the
So
opener.
they're like, oh, we want in for week one. Let's see what we can do here.
Yeah. You were thinking of it. You were not trying to make a pun.
No, I was thinking
You
of it as the business side of the league.
Truly no pun intended. But,
Literally no pun.
Man, if I were you, I would have lied. I would have said, yeah, man, I knew what I was saying all along.
Yeah.
I'm that clever. I'm that quick-witted. I'm him. That's what I would have done, me personally. You're just too honest, Spencer.
That's so funny. Our game coming up tonight, you'll be able to hear it right here on 580 WIBW. At 6 o'clock, we've got the Jeff Mitty Show. 7 o'clock pregame coverage will start for the Sunflower Showdown, KU versus K-State. What did you say you wanted this game to be called?
No, I don't think I ever had a name for it.
I could have sworn. I can't remember if it was you or someone else. I know Jesse Newell is on calling it the Clash on the Caw.
Yes.
I could have sworn someone, maybe it was a listener who told us they wanted to give it a different name. Whatever you want to call it, Sunflower Showdown, Clash on the Caw, whatever. KU K-State tonight, 7 o'clock pregame, 8 o'clock tip-off, probably 8:05 or 8:10, honestly, from Bramlage Coliseum. All right. The obvious pick here is that KU is going to win. KU is the better team.
Yes.
No one is debating that. KU is playing better basketball coming into tonight. And maybe even more so than that, KU is playing good basketball. K-State is playing dumpster butt basketball going into this game. Obviously, the pick for most people is that KU goes to Bramlage and wins.
Yeah, we even have a K-State fan on the text line from the 785 says, I expect K-State to get blown out of their own barn tonight.
So let's start from the Kansas State perspective then, since they're the dog going in here. What is the roadmap? If Kansas State is going to win, and it is going to be an uphill climb, we know that. What is that roadmap? What is the path they have to take to get there? Or, how good, just as an example, how good does Arthur Kaluma have to be? Does Tyler Perry need to play 35 minutes and he has to be great for all of them? What does it look like?
It probably looks like both of those guys and Cam Carter playing grade A basketball, taking care of the ball. You can't afford empty possessions against a KU team. It involves Gasson being able to give them 20 plus minutes tonight. I know that he only played 13 on Saturday. Word is he's healthy tonight, or at least going to be available, but they need good minutes from him because, again, he's their most switchable defender. And I think that K-State's defense just isn't as good when he's not on the floor. But yeah, they have to limit their empty possessions, and they're going to have to make the shots that they get because they're not a great half-court offense team. It's been really easy for teams to scheme them and turn their water off a little bit when they don't get out and run in transition. So when they do get good shots, they've got to cash them in. They've got to be efficient on offense, and they do have to create some fast break opportunities. They have to rebound well on the defensive end, and then go get out and run and see if, okay, maybe you don't finish, but maybe you draw some contact. Maybe you get to the free throw line. Whistles always favor the home team in Big 12 games. We know this. So maybe, get into the bonus in the first half or the second half, make up some ground from the free throw line. But the biggest thing is they can't turn it over 15 times and win this game. They can't go 4 for 28 from three like they did against Oklahoma and win this game. They got to be efficient. They got to value the basketball, and they got to rebound well. And those are not things that they've done even in some of their better performances this season. So it's a tough road.
Safe to say it's got to be lower scoring for K-State to win?
Probably. I don't think they can win a game in the 80s unless they just go nuts from 3-point. They make like 13 or 14 threes, which that's been how KU's lost on the road, right? Is they've run into teams that start hot shooting the basketball and just kind of ride that wave for all 40 minutes. That's what Iowa State did. That's what West Virginia did. They just kind of rode an offensive wave and had a out of character shooting night. Kansas State could certainly do that.
Spencer, for you in this matchup, KU the better team. K-State struggling. We know all of these basic things. What is going to be the difference maker, one way or the other? However you see this game unfolding, what do you think is going to be the biggest difference maker?
I think the biggest difference maker is that Kansas is not going to want to have what happened when they went to West Virginia happen again.
I think that's fair.
You look at what happened in that game against West Virginia, a bottom tier opponent in the Big 12 right now. And K-State, honestly, 4 straight losses, trending towards being in the bottom part of the Big 12 when all things are said and done if they can't get off the schneid. I think you can't let things that happened in the West Virginia game happen in this game. Being in a road game and being what happens with road teams this year in the Big 12 has been pretty much documented over the last month or so.
You can't let this be everyone's calling this a trap game on KU Twitter.
When you talk about like a spot game, it's a spot game for both teams because K-State, your season's on the brink. I loved Jerome Tang's analogy. Maybe it rubbed some of you the wrong way. Maybe some of you loved it. I thought it was great when he said, look, Die Hard wouldn't be much of a movie if Bruce Willis died right away. In it basically was his point is, we're still in the middle of our own movie and we're not going to be the victims. We're going to be the stars and not the victims of this movie. That's the attitude that they're taking looking forward. Well, it's past time for John McClane to start fighting back because Bill Self just showed up at Bramlage Coliseum and said, now I have a Hunter Dickinson. Ho, ho, ho. So
nice.
Thank you very much. I hope somebody appreciated my Die Hard reference.
I did.
There. So this is a spot where Kansas State has to start turning their season around. If they had been 5-4 at this point in the Big 12, I would have thought, okay, they're on a trajectory to get to where they need to go to make the tournament. But at 4-5, now it's different. It feels different. It feels like the season's getting away from them. You see so often in this league, the desperate team, particularly with home court advantage, is really, really hard to beat. There's a reason that the betting line on this game has actually moved in favor of Kansas State. They are 3.5 point underdogs in this game after spending most of the weekend at -5, -4.5. So it's a desperation spot for them. And for KU, it's a classic letdown spot, right? You talk about the trap game. It's the classic letdown game. We just had an emotional home game against a team ranked higher than us. We were underdogs, which never happens. And we beat the brakes off of Houston. And now there's that tendency that you have to fight against, that tendency to relax, that tendency to feel like you've accomplished something and you just ease off into maybe first and second gear. And against a desperate team, that can get you in trouble. So I think the first few minutes of this game are going to be really revealing. We'll see what kind of energy Kansas State comes out with relative to the kind of energy that Kansas comes out with. And if Kansas State can deliver an early salvo, I think they'll let KU know, hey, you're in for a fight tonight. That might be what KU needs, is to wake them up a little bit early on, but I expect K-State to play with a desperation tonight that will keep them in the game throughout.
I am curious what the strategy for Jerome Tang is in this game. When KU and K-State played at Allen Fieldhouse last year, KU got the win, won by, 90-78, something like that. KU controlled the game for the most part that time. But when they played at Bramlage Coliseum, there were 400 million fouls that were called in that game. But KU had one reliable scoring option. Like, KJ Adams went for 17 points. No one would have expected that. He was a perfect 6 of 6 from the floor. Jalen Wilson had 38 points in the game.
Yeah, he did.
38. And Adams fouled out. Grady Dick fouled out. Kevin McCullough played 23 minutes, did not score, and fouled out in that game. You know who played 22 minutes in that game?
Zach Clemens.
No, Clemens only played 6. Joe Yesufu.
Yeah, Clemens closed the game. That's what it was.
Yes, and it was terrifying. Remember, he fumbled the ball. He got it knocked out of his hands. And I knew as soon as he came in, it was going to end poorly. Like, you've got to be able to spread things around if you're KU. You need Adams and McCullough and Dickinson and Adams, and you need everybody. And here, I repeated Adams twice. Harris and Furf. You need everybody to contribute something on the offensive end. And I'm wondering what the strategy will be for Jerome Tang to try to shut down KU, because last year it was Grady Dick. It was take him out of the game. He still went for 16 points. Took him 13 shots. He went 1 of 8 from 3. If you remember that game, K-State did a lot to bother him on the perimeter in that game. There were not a lot of open looks for Grady Dick in that contest. What is the strategy defensively for K-State? Because KU's got the firepower. It should easily win by more than 3.5 points in this game. But the two teams that know each other, a coach that really knows Bill Self well, and vice versa. I'm curious what the defensive strategy is going to be for Kansas State. If you're going to make one guy do everything, who do they try to funnel that to?
That's a great question. They might just decide, hey, we're going to front Hunter Dickinson. We're going to try to take him away, and it's going to be anybody but him. And right now, KU's in a better position to keep that from happening because McCullough looks spry, and he's back to shooting the ball well, and Furphy is a legitimate weapon offensively as well. So I don't know that that's going to be as workable as it might have been earlier in the season, like it was workable for UCF, to name another team that beat KU on their own home floor. I know one thing. It can't be the 1-3-1. That ain't going to work. That ain't going to fly.
By the way, this was tweeted 13 minutes ago by Ryan Gilbert from Go Power Cat. 2.5 hours to tip, and he took a picture of Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Fans are lined up. Students are lined up all the way around the long side facing the parking lot in Manhattan of the Bill. All the way around.
I saw a video from a reporter from... I don't know reporters around here yet. It's my fault to whoever you are and whatever channel you are. I mean no ill will in this. It was he had posted he was walking up. It might have been Vance from
Vince from WIBW TV.
Yes, it might have been Vince from WIBW TV. Again, apologize. This was an hour ago, at least, and he was walking into the arena, and it was all the way around the stadium already.
It's going to be a zoo.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be an insane asylum in there. Sounds like it'll be jam-packed. I better go.
Yeah, you should. Dan's going to have our coverage. Check out the YouTube for Dan's instant reaction tonight. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk for all of Dan's coverage of the game as well. Enjoy the game.
I will. You guys enjoy the rest of the show.
Spencer and I will be back, in fact, in just a moment to wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Spencer wrapping up 580 Sports Talk with you on this Monday afternoon. Dan's on his way to Bramlage Coliseum in Manhattan for the Sunflower Showdown. And again, pregame coverage for the game tonight will begin at 7 o'clock, immediately following the Jeff Mitty Show, tip-off at 8 right here on your home for K-State Sports, 580 WIBW. Big day for all of our local teams. Obviously, rivalry hoops tonight. Chiefs are getting ready to have Super Bowl opening night in just a little bit. We'll hear some of the best audio from opening night coming up tomorrow. This is what used to be media day or media night, whatever they used to call it, for the Super Bowl, when, you know, people would show up wearing goofy costumes, or women from other countries would come and ask Tom Brady to marry them. That's what this night is. It's not quite as wild as it used to be.
I think it's the infamous night that isn't it the infamous night that got Barstool Sports banned from Media Day at the Super Bowl?
Yes, I do believe that is also that was a few years ago now. Yeah. It's a zoo. It is a lot. I think they're doing it in the stadium. I think they're in Allegiant Stadium, like at midfield where all this is set up.
Did you know they're selling tickets to this?
That's insane to me. And I'm not surprised because if people are willing to go, like, why wouldn't you? That's just smart business on the NFL's part. But damn, man, I wouldn't pay to go see that. Pay to stand or to sit hundreds of feet away from people doing press conference scrums. Like, nah, that ain't for me. I would absolutely not do that. Well, that's like they sold tickets to the Combine last year.
Yeah.
At least that is something physical. I don't need to go there for this.
It's $27.82 a ticket.
$27.82?
Yes.
Or $2,782?
No, $27.82 a ticket. They have some special offers that make it $13.91. I don't know what those are. I guess if you are a card holder of whatever, I don't know. But I saw it the other day and I was like, this is insane. Why are they charging people to go to this?
Look, if people are willing to spend, that's the way the economy works. And that's why the NFL has as much money and as much support and as much infrastructure as it does. It is truly incredible. Truly, truly incredible. How jacked up are you for this? This is the first Super Bowl you're getting to cover as a media member. I mean, we're not like there, but
I am jacked up. It'd be cool if we were there.
Yeah, we I think it was our pal Clayton on the YouTube comments last week. He said, all right, who's making the trip? I said, man, I wish we were making the trip.
Yeah.
Wish we were heading out there. So they're moving Big 12 football media days to Vegas this year. There's something going on in Dallas at Jerry World when they are hosting media days. So they're moving it to Vegas for the next 2 years, which is probably going to severely hamper our ability to go do anything at media day. I'm not like the ultimate clientele for Vegas because while I like gambling on sports, I'm not a big gambler in general. That's why I'm so excited about our friends at Prairie Band. This is not like an intentional ad. I'm just saying it's a perfect fit. Like I'm not a big casino guy. Like it's just not my scene. But sportsbook, I do enjoy to put a shekel or two down on a game. So I am certainly going to head up there and put some money down on the Super Bowl when we're up there on Thursday. And have a good time. It'll be America East Thursday while we're there. Super excited about that. Some in-person America East betting on Thursday when we're at the Prairie Band Sportsbook, which we are so fired up about being there. But so I'm not the number one target for Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not. I'm going to spend a night there this spring. My wife and I are going with her family. We're going on this long trip. We're going to see some national parks in the Southwest, and we're going to spend a night in Vegas on our way out of town. And like seeing a show would be cool, but like I'm not a big casino guy. I'm clearly not like looking for ladies of the night or anything. Like that's not my vibe. But I sort of feel like Vegas is kind of being overdone at this point. And I know some people will tell me. I bet your pal Rick Peterson would tell me this because Pistol loves Vegas. Say, oh my God, you prude. Like you're so wrong. Vegas is so great. But like there have been fans from the Pac-12 schools that are joining the Big 12 next year who say, oh no, you have to move the conference title football game to Vegas. You have to move the Big 12 tournament to Vegas. It's so great. Vegas. Nah, man, there's culture in other places too. There are other good places to do things. There are other good places to host things. And I know I'm just going off on a tangent. Putting one Super Bowl there, not a big deal. I'm just saying, I feel like we have gone so quickly from, ooh, Vegas, no, contraband, terrible, keep it away from me. We can't be anywhere near Vegas, to all of a sudden every league, every entity, every sport has to be there for everything. And I don't think I feel that same way. And I'm glad that the Big 12 basketball tournament is staying in Kansas City. I'm glad that the Super Bowl will keep moving all over the place, even though we're only going to get more and more things, more and more people, more and more stuff going to Vegas. Like the NBA is going to Las Vegas. When they eventually expand, which I assume will happen in the next 2 years, they're going to put a team back in Seattle. I assume they'll put back the Supersonics, and they're going to put a team in Vegas. I've never been so sure of anything when it comes to like sports business and league management and stuff. We know that the A's are moving to there's now more lawsuits to try to keep them from moving into Las Vegas, but the A's are trying to move to Vegas. It's been approved by Major League Baseball. It's only going to keep happening. And we're going to end up.
They've already announced the closing date for the casino that's getting torn down in order for.
Have they really?
Yeah, for them.
Oh.
It's the Tropicana?
The Tropicana. Yeah. I don't know anything about
it. I think it's March 1st.
All I know is everyone says Circus is the worst. That's all I know. And my dad, I think, stayed at Excalibur one time. And I remember he brought me home a pen and something else. I don't remember what else it was. And now Excalibur is like a dumpy one because
I've never been there. I think it's an interesting place to go, but I don't know.
Not my vibe. I would rather sit in a sports book and hang out with my friends, or just sit. I'm going to sound like such a loser, but like I'd rather just like sit alone and watch a game. Like I like doing things alone. I think it is fun. I think it is very freeing. It is a very fun experience. I would much rather do that than go to a casino. But apparently, gotta have Vegas. Gotta have Vegas everything. And the Chiefs are in Vegas right now. We will hear from opening night coming up on tomorrow's show. We'll have Chiefs player audio, and we'll hear from Andy Reid tomorrow on the show as well. Plus, Jordan Foote is going to join us. We'll have Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain. We've got Bobby Witt's press conference along with John Sherman. That's going to be all coming up tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk. But before we get there, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back with the final word right after this on 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up 580 Sports Talk. Spencer, it's time for the final word. You're up first.
My final word is the fact that the Commanders, along with, I believe, the Falcons and Packers, are teams that could potentially be playing the Eagles in Brazil week 1. My final word is that you don't play a divisional game anywhere but a home stadium. That's it. That's my final word.
Final word for me, two-piecer today. One, Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be a Kansas City Royal for at bare minimum the next 7 years. He might even be locked into 14 more years as a Kansas City Royal. If you have kids who are just getting into baseball, just getting into sports, they're looking for someone who's going to be the cornerstone of a franchise, hopefully a franchise that is going to start winning more in the near future. You've got that guy, a good kid from a good family, a baseball background who is a hell of a player, a fun kid to watch. They've got that guy, and that is a really special thing for the Royals to have. A team that this year should certainly be more competitive and now has their superstar locked in for the long term. That is something that I think every single Royals fan should be celebrating. Also, it's Sunflower Showdown Day. How can you not be excited about one of the most fun rivalries? I would say right now it is the best rivalry in the Big 12. And even with the newcomers coming in next year, the second wave of newcomers, it is the best rivalry in the Big 12. Super excited for it tonight. You know my pick. Hawks! KU is going to get the win tonight. Don't know if they're going to cover. I do think K-State is going to keep this one close. Give me KU 77-72. That'll be my official score prediction. Jam-packed show tomorrow. Michael Swain, Jordan Foote, Royals press conference audio, Chiefs press conference audio as well, coming up from 2 to 6. For Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow back here on 580 Sports Talk.